Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dibular, of course.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today? Welcome, and thanks very much for being here. They got a lawnmower or something going. It just turned it on outside the window, so I hope that's not too loud for you all.
No, we can't hear it on this
All
side.
right, good. That's the technology. That's why we invest in the good microphones for you guys. High standards here at the Do Dissidents podcast. Well, hey, thanks very much for being here. Got a great crowd in here to start things off. 642 strong in the YouTube chat, 353 strong over on Rumble. Let's smash that like button. Let's smash that subscribe button. And I think we should jump right in. Russ is going to see the Superman movie tonight, which I guess we will get to when the time comes.
I am. They have, for Amazon Prime members, they have a special screening tonight. I was not going to check it out, but it seems like the conversation around it is going to be interesting.
Yes. And so I will be representing the Do Dissidents podcast alone on the Post-Duopoly show tonight on RBN at 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you kind of tune into that. Kind of a doubleheader, kind of a day-night doubleheader today. That should be a lot of fun. But we do have tons to get into, so we're going to waste no time. So, folks, I know that you are all very upset about the fact that the people on the Epstein client list are apparently getting a pass. They're apparently walking. But you have to understand, folks, the administration has real criminals to deal with in MacArthur Park. So, I want everybody to understand that, while Epstein's clients may be getting off, it's because there are real criminals that have to be dealt with. So heavily armed immigration agents descend on LA's MacArthur Park.
This sounds like a job for Superman.
Yes, sounds like a job for Superman, indeed. Immigration agents in military green surrounded MacArthur Park as the convoy readied for a show of force akin to a Hollywood movie. They came with horses and armored vehicles, carrying rifles and in tactical gear in the middle of what is the heart of immigrant Los Angeles. But there were few of their supposed targets to be found Monday, immigrants without documentation. So here they are arriving on the scene. You see, folks, politics is all about compromise. Yes, we would like to be able to bring the Epstein clients to justice and do mass deportations, but obviously you have finite resources. And so we need these troops wandering around soccer fields and softball fields in MacArthur Park, even though, as you could see, there's essentially nobody there. If you don't believe me, here's a more comprehensive view. This is an overhead view of the raid, quote unquote. Can't even call it a raid because there's really nobody there to be raided. But here they are walking aimlessly across a soccer field in the park. This is tweeted out by the mayor, Karen Bass. Yeah, there they go. Who they after? Do you see anybody there? just marching across an empty field in the middle of a park. Yeah. Wow. What an operation. On horseback. They got the armored vehicles, which we'll see later. Yeah. So we'll see. Look, just a nice panoramic view of things. Not much of anything going on there except this supposed raid on non-existent immigrants in the park. Since at least Sunday, rumors had spread about an operation at the park. Oh, maybe that's why. Flyers were plastered around the area warning that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or La Migra as they're also known, were coming. It's unclear if anyone was arrested during the sweep. We don't comment on ongoing enforcement operations, said a senior Department of Homeland Security official when asked for comment on whether any arrests had been made.
Except when we're trying to shore up our base.
Exactly. Right.
And we're very excited to comment on them.
Exactly. My guess is they didn't arrest anybody because yesterday of all days would have been a day to make a show out of arresting a criminal alien, right?
Mm-hmm.
They needed the good press yesterday, that's for sure. Didn't seem to get it. It is outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our park, Mayor Karen Bass said at an impromptu press conference at City Hall after federal authorities cleared out. What happened to the criminals, the drug dealers, the violent individuals who were in the park today were children. It was their summer camp, their summer day camp. Here's Karen Bass.
Outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our parks when nothing is going on in the parks. It's outrageous and un-American that the federal government seized our state's National Guard. It's outrageous and un-American that we have U.S. Marines who are trained to kill foreign soldiers overseas deployed in our American city.
That's right. That's right. Our army belongs killing brown people overseas, not scaring them here at home. That's neoliberalism for you, is it not? There's Karen Bass tweeted that.
It really is. It really is. There was a great story. I might do that on Thursday with the Mexico City story. How black gentrification in Ghana is making it impossible for the people of Ghana to afford to live there.
Right. Yeah. That is something. So Karen Bass tweeted that video out of herself, and in response, Barry Barami says, "You are correct about one thing. What happened in MacArthur Park is outrageous and un-American. Resign now." So MacArthur Park is now sort of infamous for, drugs and crime, and, this has been something.
Yeah, man. When me and Jimmy went to Langer's, it's right across from there.
Yep.
It was like a vision of hell because it was raining.
Yep.
So it was just a bunch of drug addicts getting rained on. It looked just horrible. It was like the ninth circle of hell there.
Yeah, well, that's actually mentioned in this report. So this guy's clapback to Karen Bass was, well, the park is a hellhole, so ICE needs to come and clean it up and get the baddies out.
In and around MacArthur Park are getting worse, and those who spend time there every day say they're fed up. Those complaints continue weeks after Langer's Deli threatened to close due to drugs, crime, and other issues.
NBC4's Alex Rozier was at the park today. He joins us live on what he heard out there as well. Alex?
Colleen and Annabelle, we are live tonight a few blocks from MacArthur Park as we felt that this is really the closest we can get and report live safely nearby. But today we went into the park and got a close look at a very sad situation. MacArthur Park has the potential to be one of the prettiest parks in the city. But if you visit it today, this is a sampling of what you'll see.
This is a forgotten park.
Derek Rice has worked nearby for 34 years.
When I can imagine how it used to be, I can imagine families walking to the park, kids having fun, running around. Now that's how you see the homeless problem, the drug addicts and stuff, 24 hours just hanging out there.
A few blocks away, we saw Miguel, who just picked up his 6-year-old daughter from school. I asked him about the park. He said, it's kind of scary because there are a lot of people who are drugged up, and so we are scared to walk through there. Complaints from the community continue weeks after Langer's Deli across the street threatened to close after nearly 80 years in business.
I've been complaining about this for ages.
Norm Langer blames nearby crime, drug use, and mental illness as a reason he's lost a third of his longtime business.
Okay, so you get the idea. This has essentially been the take, is that the park is crime-ridden and drug-ridden, and so we needed to have an ICE raid there, even though there were no people there to arrest at the time. And boy, did they make a big show of things. We are with hundreds of federal agents and a military as a massive federal immigration enforcement operation is underway in the MacArthur Park area of the sanctuary city of Los Angeles, says Bill Malugan. Here are some of the photos. Again, where are the people? Like, what kind of raid happens where there's no people? There's no people anywhere.
Well, not only that, when you think about what the cost of this was.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you take that money and go into the park to help these people?
Right.
They're back
exactly.
the next day. That's
right.
what they just showed in the report. They're back. What did you accomplish? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Here they are again. Here they are again. Here's some more. Well, that TV report had nothing to do with this. That was just some backstory on the park.
Oh, that was just overall.
Yeah, that was just some backstory. That's just why. That's just there. That's just the conservative argument for why this needed to happen, right? And how Karen Bass is the one who destroyed the park.
That's not why they did it.
Of course, it's not why they did it. So Ken Klippenstein, who gets access to a lot of things, I guess he's not supposed to, but I guess he has contacts because he had an exclusive on this. Operation Excalibur in Los Angeles was a show of force. So he writes, today's Homeland Security operation at the 35-acre MacArthur Park in the Westlake neighborhood of Los Angeles was a mere show of presence. Internal Army documents I've obtained say ICE and customs agents, many dressed in military garb, assaulted the park, which the documents described as a hotbed of historic lawlessness and the founding location of MS-13, the Salvadoran gang. I'm pretty sure MS-13 was founded in El Salvador, but okay. The news media is describing the operation as an ominous crackdown, but National Guard sources tell me that it was a botched laughingstock. The military aspect of the operation, codenamed Operation Excalibur, has not been previously reported. The documents reveal that erstwhile justification for the operation was to try to shut down the distribution of fake IDs. The mission of the 1st Squadron, 18th Cavalry, is described as protecting DHS security points and blocking positions while they undertook their assault. The squadron was ordered not to restrict pedestrian movement and not to conduct law enforcement activities. So essentially, yes, this was a show of presence. This was designed to scare people. That is essentially what this was. And here is Border Patrol Chief on what's happening with their presence in LA, saying this is going to be the normal very soon.
It is not leaving LA. I don't work for Karen Bass. The federal government doesn't work for Karen Bass. We're going to be here till that mission's accomplished, as I said, and better get used to us now because this is going to be normal very soon.
So essentially, ICE is going to be an occupying army in major cities. Who knows how many? Certainly LA is top of their list, obviously, since they thought this was a good investment of resources, which was to do what is essentially a giant publicity stunt, just a giant show of force, just a giant show of intimidation. I mean, Trump has said that he is encouraging immigrants to self-deport, to lighten the load on ICE. Maybe this was an attempt to scare people into doing that. Certainly an attempt to make their presence known and their numbers known, especially now that the big, beautiful bill has passed and ICE will be better funded than almost every other army in the world, much less police force. And so, yeah, this was obviously a show of force. And, you know, I joke at the beginning, they got to get the real criminals like the immigrants on drugs in the park, as opposed to the Epstein people. But, you know, I tweeted out a meme to the effect of, hey, you know, it's gotta, if you're MAGA, do you really get the satisfaction out of this that you did 2 days ago? Like, they're letting the Epstein list walk. Like, they're kind of turning a blind eye to some pretty heinous crimes. So you really, like, it's one thing.
They let out 2 actual sex traffickers to frame Abrego Garcia.
Exactly. So, you know, it's one thing if you're really big on law and order and you just are obsessed with crime and punishment 24/7. But now that they're letting the Epstein thing go, this has to hit this has to taste a little more sour, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not obsessed with crime and punishment the way these people are. I've never gotten off on this the way a lot of these people have. But you'd think this probably hits a little bit different. And for this to happen, the same day or the day after the evening that the Epstein files broke, didn't quite get the traction that it probably would have had that Epstein memo not been sent. I saw Jack Posobiec tweet about it. Charlie Kirk tweeted about it. Didn't stick. I picked a bad week to try and wean myself off of X. I told you guys in the last show, I'm trying to get off of Twitter a little bit, but you just couldn't be off of Twitter yesterday. There was no way. So I saw some chirping about this.
I called him up, man. I was trying to help him with the 12 steps.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah,
you got to admit you have no power over your addiction.
Yeah, he said admit your powerlessness. That's right. That's the first step. That's the first step. But yeah, so some of the chuds tried to make a big show of this, and it got out there a bit. Obviously, it's pretty scary stuff. But yeah, this is your law and order president here. The Epstein clients walk, and they send feds on horseback to march around an empty park to scare you into self-deportation if you are here without papers.
Well, you're seeing in real time why capitalism ultimately evolves into fascism, because the capitalists are going to suck every penny they can out of the pockets of the middle class and the poor. And eventually that creates crime. It creates social disorder. Those things are very much present in Los Angeles. And then instead of offering you the solution of providing social services, of providing economic opportunity, they offer you the solution of revenge against the bad people.
Exactly.
Right? And then you have fascism, right? I'm sure you have a lot of people go, do you know how fucked up Los Angeles is? Yes.
So fix it.
I've been singing that song for a very long time. It has gotten that way because of decades of disinvestment in the public, in infrastructure, in jobs, in housing, decades of that. They create the problem, and then they offer you as the only solution a fascistic solution, which has the underlying moral philosophy of blaming the victims of decades of failed economic policy.
Right, exactly. Like, okay, take that report at face value. You were just there near the park. I believe that area has gone to hell. A lot of LA has gone to hell.
Yeah,
okay, so fix it.
Sure.
Isn't that what politics is for? Isn't that what government is for? To fix problems like that without resorting to feds on horseback in bulletproof vests parading through the parks, without having to turn your own cities into occupied territories for federalized and militarized police forces. Isn't that what that's for? And this is a part of it that I think a lot of people have been missing. Joe Rogan just did a thing on his show where he went on a little brief monologue talking about how, we didn't think they were going to be rounding up workers. I mean, I don't know how you missed that. They were pretty clear. Mass deportations was on the agenda the whole time, but okay, whatever. If you missed it, you missed it. Got to talk to more people, I suppose. But anyway.
Maybe he could have done the slightest bit of research before gassing up these fucking Silicon Valley criminals like Mark Andreessen.
Yeah.
And, just, hey, with all the hundreds of millions of dollars he gets paid from Spotify, get a couple of researchers. How about it?
What about the people, on the floor of the RNC waving the mass deportation signs, right? But anyway.
That was a hint.
Yeah.
That was a hint.
I think, though, what I would say is I think a lot of people, when they say they support mass deportations, don't exactly realize what they are signing up for when they say they support mass deportations. And I don't mean this in a lecturing way. Like, I can understand how you might be mistaken about this. I, to a large extent, was mistaken about this in the sense that I didn't see this coming at this scale. Okay, mass deportations, they will say, okay, the argument for mass deportations is basically an open and shut case. Okay, if you have people who are here illegally who are not supposed to be here, what can possibly be the argument against taking them from here where they're not supposed to be and putting them where they are supposed to be? Like, logically, how can you be opposed to that. Now, I think that question in itself ignores a lot of the context. Why did they come here? What did we do to their countries that forced them up here? But okay, fine. You want to not be all that nuanced? Okay, fine. I understand that. The problem is it's very often not as simple as taking people from where they're not supposed to be and putting them where they are supposed to be. What if you don't know exactly who they are? What if you don't know where they're supposed to be? Then you can't just drop them off anywhere, because what if the countries that you're trying to drop them off to don't take them? Hey, this guy's not ours. We're not taking him. Well, at that point, you need some place to keep all these people, which means you need to build prisons, detention facilities, cages. So you really can't do mass deportation without mass incarceration, because in the interim, while you're figuring out where to put people, you need to jail them. You can't do mass incarceration without a police state, because you need people to go out and get the people to put in the cages while you're figuring out where to put them. So you can't build a mass deportation machine without building a giant police state. Now, I do think that was lost on a lot of people. Which we already
more or less had going
Which we already more or less had, and now forget it, right? But I do think that was lost on a lot of people. I think a lot of people took an overly simplistic view of this, which is not a difficult mistake to make. A lot of people thought, well, deportation just means we take this guy from our country, we put him in his country, we let him go, he lives his life, and that's that. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot uglier than that. And the implications are a lot broader than that, because you can't do this without drastically expanding the power of the executive and putting matters of crime and punishment in their hands. And I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. And that is a lesson that we better learn pretty quick. Better learn that pretty quick. Yeah. So, all right. Let's go on to some super chats. Miles Teg, Jesus effing Christ. Are we all sure we're all living in reality? This U.S. administration has gone so far beyond ludicrous. It's now
seriously.
George,
I was thinking the same thing with that video of them going through on horseback.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, just unbelievable. Just horrible. Matrix. America is not stupid. We've transcended stupidity. No word exists for the depths of ignorance we've embraced. That is true, Matrix. Andy Gardner. Well, look who's back on X. He. Lutnick laugh. Just kidding. Yeah. The pig man laugh. They redid our soundboard. There we go. Okay, what do we got over here? We got some Rumble rants coming in here. 1,600 strong in the YouTube chat, 588 over on Rumble. Smash that like button, please. Ravid X says, damn, you guys clearly don't know how to play 8D chess. Unfollow. Thank you. Yes. Eric Rousseau says, Epstein who? New phone. Who dis? Haha, good one, Eric Rousseau. Hillary Hitton says, I already had a low opinion of humanity, but I've been listening to a lot of true crime lately, and for fuck's sake, people are just colossally stupid and awful. Irredeemably so. Earth probably needs a reboot. Yep, I tend to agree with that.
I went through an investigation discovery phase, but it's all the same story. You know, they want the insurance money, and it is amazing because you just imagine, like, wow. Like, because usually those stories are just like average people who decide to kill somebody for money. It's incredible. Right. Like, how do you get there?
What the hell are you talking about?
She was talking about true crime.
Who was?
Hillary Hinton didn't just.
Was that about true crime?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Do you pay any attention to? To a lot. Okay, you mentioned true crime. All right, for fuck's sake, people are just colossally stupid and awful. Okay, I was focusing in on the macro point about people being stupid and awful. Oh yeah, well that's where you live.
That's what I connect to. Yeah, so I must have forgot. Yeah, I was like, what the hell was that? All right. Anyway, all right, let's move right on along to another immigrant story, a larger than life immigrant story.
Look, up in the sky, it's an immigrant. So James Gunn gave an interview to the London Times about his upcoming reboot of the Superman franchise, and it has been a source of a lot of sturm and drang. James Gunn, some people will take offense at my new Superman. The director reveals why his superhero reboot has jokes, politics, and is only 2 hours long. He's the Man of Steel the world needs now. So just some highlights from it. Yes, it's about politics, Gunn says. Now, to be clear, he's not referring to the whole movie. He says the most daring choice he made was Lois and Clark have a 10-minute conversation. Some of that was in one of the trailers about the morality of what he does.
There was a scene where Superman shoots up in MacArthur Park, but they took that out. That was too on the nose.
And he has to use a kryptonite needle.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about politics, Gunn says, but on another level, it's about morality. Do you never kill no matter what, which is what Superman believes, or do you have some balance, as Lois believes? It's really about their relationship and the way different opinions on basic moral beliefs can tear two people apart. And he goes on later to say, I mean, Superman is the story of America, Gunn says. This is what's really got the chuds upset. An immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. But for me, it is mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something we have lost, unquote. I ask if he has considered how differently the film might play in, say, Blue State, New York, a.k.a. Metropolis. He's wrong about that. It's really Chicago. Gotham is New York, but okay. And Kansas, where Kent grew up. Yes, it plays differently, Gunn admits, but it's about human kindness, and obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it is about kindness, but screw them. And later on, he says, this Superman does seem to come at a particular time when people are feeling a loss of hope in other people's goodness. Gunn adds, I'm telling a story about a guy who is uniquely good and that feels needed now because there is a meanness that has emerged due to cultural figures being mean online. Okay, so hey, he didn't say people in red states are going to hate it. He said there are some jerks who are, it'll play differently in different regions, but he doesn't say the whole region is going to hate this movie. He says some jerks are going to be nasty. At another point in the interview, he talks about how he released a video of children coming up to David Corn's sweat and him high-fiving them, and people saying, oh, now Superman's a pussy. So, like, why would you not want Superman to be kind? Like, why would you not want children to like Superman? So, of course, the usual suspects, the nerd channels, really ran with this. And hey, who could blame them? They got to eat. They're running out of road pretty quickly. You know, Ironheart just dropped. That's one of the last projects of its kind in the pipeline. They're going to have to try to get by on their talent, and most of them don't have enough to do that. Superman director slams Red State fans. You just heard what he said. Did he slam Red State fans? No, he didn't. He said it'll probably play differently. There will be some jerks. It's political. F you. He did not say that.
Did not say that.
No.
You must be almost 30. Have you ever kissed a girl?
Yeah. So this was really outstanding. So on Fox, Kellyanne Conway and Jesse Waters offered their opinion of the interview.
Yankees at Mets game yesterday at Citi Field. Go Yanks. And you should see the people sitting for the national anthem for God Bless America. It's really just, I can't believe that we've come down to that. And I don't know, we don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and to have somebody throw their ideology onto us. I wonder if it'll be successful.
You know what it says on his cape? MS-13.
Is it superimposed or it actually says that? It is super. Just on the knuckles. One more thing is up next.
Okay, so to be clear, once again, he said it's about politics in a very specific context, about a 10-minute conversation that's not even about these kinds of culture war things. It's about the morality of whether you kill or don't kill, whether it's appropriate for him to get involved in stopping wars and that this is a theme that's been in the Superman comics for a very long time. Like, does he have the right to insert himself into certain situations in that way? And what are the moral lines about violence? And regarding the immigration, which is really what they've been getting very upset about, that is inherent to the story. Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, two Jewish teenagers. They were teenagers when they created Superman. First generation children of immigrants in New York City. That has always been a part of the Superman story. It's not something that was there at the beginning, but then got forgotten about. Here's a clip from Smallville.
I'm an illegal immigrant, Mom. You've been harboring me for over 17 years.
Your situation was entirely different. We had to protect you.
And I need to protect Javier. If I don't defend him, who will?
Okay. Here is Zack Snyder when Justice League was released in 2017, talking without stirring up any controversy about the well-known fact that Superman is an immigrant story written by the children of immigrants.
I like that because I think that the immigrant story, I mean, clearly that's kind of what he's about, you know. He's like, he's come to Earth, and maybe that's a metaphor for America or a metaphor for a sort of Western civilization or even just the modern world. And he has to find his place in it. And regardless of what gifts he's offering to the world, and how he wants to not only fit in, but also to make it better, he still could be met with resistance, and he still could be sort of looked at like an outsider, and all the sort of things that cause him, pain, and where his real struggle comes from. And I think that really, in a lot of ways, Superman is like, to me, I think that because he is an outsider who wants to belong and wants to be part of a family and part of a society, and because he does, like I said, have so much to offer, I think that he really, he does tend to me, and for me as well, I think that he speaks a lot of times to people who are slightly disenfranchised or who aren't 100% appreciated necessarily for the gifts that they have.
Okay, so this didn't stir up any controversy when he said this. Again, it's long been understood to be central to the Superman mythos. Here's End Wokeness. Hollywood literally never learns. And MK2 responds, they know Superman has always been an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
Shay Serrano. The MAGA idiots realizing Superman is an immigrant is fucking hilarious. Well, at least one graffiti artist in Chicago understood that Superman is an immigrant and did this lovely mural of Superman taking on ice. Here's James Gunn. He was asked at one of the red carpet events what he thought about this pushback.
Your brother talked about Superman being an immigrant, and now MAGA is already upset that he's called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
My reaction to that is that it is exactly what the movie is about. I think that we support our people, we love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant, and yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants, and if you don't like that, then you're not American. People who say no to immigrants are against the American way. They're against what the American dream is all about.
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and here's Ben Shapiro with his pitch for a Superman versus Zoran Mamdani issue in the DC universe.
And the original is very much about how the values of America are farm bred and farm born. Right? His moral center, his moral compass, Superman, is on the farm from his parents. That's why he takes the name Clark Kent. He's an immigrant who assimilates to American values and then brings those classic American values to the big city, where he has to use them to defend the big city from enemies, foreign and domestic. I mean, the original Superman is literally punching Hitler in the face. In the comics, he literally punches Hitler in the face. So, the attempt to separate Superman off from America is just a demonstration by the cultural left of how much they dislike America. And that's no shock, because when you take that over into the political sphere, full scale, what you end up is a different kind of immigrant, like the guy who may be the next mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani. So if you have a choice between immigrants who come to the United States, yes, on alien spacecraft, and land, and then are integrated into America and imbibe from the wellspring of American values, or Zoran Mamdani, you should pick Superman, because Zoran Mamdani is a disaster area. This guy is likely to be the next mayor of New York.
You know, they had Superman versus Muhammad Ali, so why not?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Why not? Superman versus Zoran Mamdani. So Ben Shapiro there obviously has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Tries to present the idea that Superman basically is right wing, that he has his vision, Shapiro's vision of heartland values versus the decadence of the urban environment, and he's the good immigrant who assimilates versus the Zoran Mamdani dangerous immigrant. Just insane. So here's an issue of Superman where he points out, as he's protecting refugees, that he is here illegally. The soldier says, "You don't understand, Superman. These refugees are in our country illegally," to which he responds, "So am I." There was actually an issue of Superman where he fights the Ku Klux Klan. Now, for anyone who's going to say, well, that's because the woke writers took over and they put that in there, but that's not what he originally was. Actually, that is very much what Superman originally was, and more so. Remember, Superman was created during the Great Depression. The original run of Superman by Siegel and Schuster usually was about Clark Kent uncovering some social ill and then sending in his Superman persona to beat the shit out of everybody. So his villains were not super villains. That came later. He would fight corrupt politicians. He would fight chain gang bosses. There was a run of Superman where he tore down the slums and fought the cops and the army, blaming the slums for a preponderance of juvenile delinquency. Little bit about that. The author didn't take credit for this article, but it was very good. It's in a page called Too Busy Thinking About My Comics. In what's now known as Superman in the Slums, the story's catharsis relies on its star defeating American troops while flattening large and decayed swaths of urban real estate, even as U.S. Army soldiers fix bayonets and charge at him, even as a squadron of aerial bombers flies to the attack. Superman determinedly hauls down filthy, crime-infested slums. The implication was clear. Key sections of the American state, along with powerful interests in American society, were knowingly or not in cahoots with the enemies of the American people. In the face of a social order that simply would not act to defend its most vulnerable citizens, violent and sweeping change would simply have to be forced through. So yes, folks, Superman, as originally conceived, was basically a commie. Superman was originally fighting capital. That is really the way it was originally conceived. And going on from there, yes, did Superman continue to represent such radical politics? Obviously, times changed. But he continued to represent a noble ideal, which is usually meant defending the downtrodden.
Right.
A typical interpretation of Superman would not have him with the ICE agents in MacArthur Park. Right. It would have him fighting off the ICE agents in MacArthur Park. And that has not changed. This should really be made into a t-shirt. I cannot wait to watch an illegal alien absolutely ruin the plans of a billionaire. Who's Superman's arch nemesis? Lex Luthor, a billionaire. Today he'd be a Silicon Valley tech bro, right? I'm sure that's how they're interpreting him in the comics. And finally, this was pretty funny from Mike Nellis. MAGA folks are big mad about James Gunn saying Superman is an immigrant. Just wait until they hear Captain America's origin story. Nobody tell Daryl Cooper about this.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so I am going to go see it tonight. But it is amazing how people have co-opted the image of Superman and made him out to be something that he absolutely never was. But when you look at this hysteria around what James Gunn said, it really does show you how people are being conditioned, trained, and brainwashed, and I would argue hypnotized by social media, just as Gunn says, to be mean, to be fascistic. Why would you get triggered by someone saying Superman is an immigrant and he represents kindness at a time when we need kindness? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you that you are triggered by something like that? I wasn't going to go see it in the theaters. I was going to wait to see it on HBO. Like a lot of people, I've kind of checked out on the superhero stuff. But yeah, if there's anyone with the talent to reinterpret Superman for this moment, and I do agree with James Gunn that especially for kids, we do need some kind of a heroic ideal like that in a world that's sorely lacking. Zack Snyder went completely off the rails with this very dark emo interpretation of Superman. That's not what the character is. If you can bring back some of that spirit of the Christopher Reeve Superman, which in many ways was representing an ideal at another moment when America, this is 1978, is feeling very down about itself. There's a pervasive cynicism. And if you go back and you watch the Richard Donner film, they're very self-aware about that, about dropping this idealistic character in the middle of the cynical 70s. And they made that work. If there's anyone who could make that work at this moment, it's James Gunn. He's very talented. He's a very good writer and director in this genre. So hopefully he pulls it off. We will see tonight.
Russell, we'll see tonight. Yeah, and there were people who, because the tweet of that mural went kind of viral, and there were some people who were saying, yeah, Superman would be with ICE, which is just, of course, absurd. Now, listen, you out there watching, you're not Superman, so you do not touch ICE. They will fuck your life up massively if you do that. So obviously, you are not Superman, so don't be a hero in that way. We do not encourage any violence with ICE officers, obviously, but
unless you're Superman,
right? But the fact is, like, that mural could have been a comic square if you look at just the oppositional entities of Superman and the ICE agents. Oppositional in a very literal sense that, yes, he was conceived literally as an illegal immigrant.
Right.
He was conceived as an immigrant. Like the Superman story is the immigrant story. That's a matter of
there have been
fact.
whole
I thought
plot lines of Superman about his legal status.
Yeah, I really thought that was common enough knowledge, but I guess not. I used to give superhero tours when I lived in the city, and so I learned about the origin.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. There was a comic book tour that I used to guide.
No,
I
know there's a comic book tour. There was that guy. You worked for that guy? It's like one guy who had those tours, right?
Well, he worked for the guy I worked for. That guy's name is Paul. And he used to work in the industry. Has a pretty encyclopedic knowledge of that stuff. So I was like his understudy. When he couldn't make it, I would do it, and I would give an inferior version of the tour, obviously, because I didn't have the knowledge he did. But I learned the stuff, and I, pointed to the buildings and said the shit, right? So whatever, I earned my pay. But that's where I learned, and I assumed it was I was a young man when I learned that, but I assumed it was common knowledge. That, of course, it makes perfect sense. It's obviously, even if you didn't know that, it's obviously an immigrant metaphor. If you know about when the Superman character came out, and the environment out of which he sprung, then yeah, it's the most obvious immigrant metaphor in the world. I think people, especially in that nerd space, are so accustomed to freaking out when, say, some woke director turned Star Wars into a political metaphor that wasn't there in the source material, and they think, well, you're bastardizing this intellectual property to push an agenda. That's not what this is. He is an immigrant. It's foundational to the Superman myth.
Yeah. The people with the nerd channels have absolutely no excuse because they know.
Well, they know. They have to know. Yes, of course.
Yes.
If I know, they know.
one of the of course they know. One of the most common phrases in Superman comics narratives is his adopted home. They always invoke that phrase in his relationship to Earth, that Earth is his adopted home. Like it is core to the Superman mythos.
Yes, it is foundational. I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world. And yeah, these people who clearly know this stuff better than I do. I mean, if I know that, certainly they do. Certainly they do. So it's a pretty desperate grift at this point. All right, let's see here. Where did we go here? Russell's Peasant Mind saying, I just finished a biography of Abe Lincoln, and I can't help but think, what does America's preeminent historian Daryl Cooper think about Honest Abe? There you go. Eric Suarez, Batman complex, having all the means to fix the root cause of crime, but choose to fight it with brutality instead. Thank you, Eric Suarez.
Yeah, I have definitely come to see Batman a little differently. I wrote an article that's still up there if you want to look it up, when the Joker movie was causing a lot of hysteria.
Right, that Batman was really a fascist vigilante. Javier says, I'm glad generic white dude is defending me. Thank you, Javier. Miles Teg, thanks for the $5. You mean to tell me a make-believe literal illegal alien being called an immigrant makes people mad? Chud tears are made of stupid. George R. from Australia. Yeah, exactly.
Say that again.
Exactly. MAGA influencer says abiding should remember maintaining radio silence is preferable to engaging in frantic justifications for the no Epstein list narrative. Netanyahu nominated Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. Yes, indeed. We are getting to that, Eric Husso. Appreciate that. Oh, George says, hey, guys, apparently those drone strikes on Iran were from Azerbaijan, reported to be continuing Idlib-style dudes, as I understand. Peace in the so-called Middle East. Thank you, oh, George. Good to hear from you, my friend. Killary Hinton says, dirtbags, how do we get them to have Pokemon arrest war criminals, genocide pedos, and makers of Marvel movies? Sorry about the dirtbags thing. Someone left the cake out in the rain, says Mark Pugliese. Thank you, Mark Pugliese. All right, let's move right on along here. Okay. All right, folks, now comes the fun stuff. So we reported live on the air on Sunday the Axios memo, or the DOJ memo and the FBI memo reported by Axios, saying that there would be no new charges in the Epstein case, that there was no evidence of a blackmail ring in the Epstein case, and that they would not be releasing any more info on the Epstein case because there was no client list. So let's take a step back in time, because this interview clip is getting a lot of play right now. Pam Bondi, back in February, the Epstein client list is sitting on my desk right now to review.
Be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
Not yet. They're on the desk, though. Here, also in February, Alina Habba on Piers Morgan. It's incredibly disturbing. Flight logs, information, names that will come out. She's a counselor to the president, and here she is on February making pretty big promises.
In Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
Oh, that's right. Now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability. But then, of course,
Say that
things.
word. I
Yeah.
don't think it means what you think it means.
So then things started to look a little fishy. A little fishy. End of February comes around, and we see this peculiar stunt where a bunch of conservative influencers pose with binders labeled the Epstein files outside the White House. But as we know, the Phase 1 Epstein binders are filled with heavily redacted versions of information that's been publicly available for 5 years. This entire PR stunt is one of the craziest scams I've ever seen. What a disaster. That was back in February. Now, pay attention. Jack Posobiec there in the upper right-hand corner, posing very proudly with his Epstein Files binder. More on that in a little bit. And then things got even stranger in May. Oh, boy, it's looking worse and worse and worse for this Epstein list, isn't it? Here's Kash Patel and Dan Bongino insisting that he killed himself.
See one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
It looks bad.
Now,
Looks
for the
bad.
love of God, let my children go.
Yeah. So then you have side-by-side comparisons because obviously Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan, at which point he said that he hadn't seen anything, which seems to contradict Pam Bondi's statement that they have thousands of videos on Jeffrey Epstein.
Go play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
No, I don't actually, and I had said that at the time, and I'm right. I was right at the time. I said no. With you in charge, no, I don't think I'll see it. I don't think I'll see it, and now we're not seeing
Charge. Don't you think you'd see it?
Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going.
All right, so it started to seem like we were not going to get any more information, much less any more charges or arrests related to this case. And what would you have it known? Exclusive on Sunday night, DOJ, FBI conclude Epstein had no client list, died by self-deletion.
Free Ghislaine.
Yeah, exactly. If there's no client list, then why is she in jail?
Right.
Who'd she traffic people to?
Right.
If there was no client list. Yeah. What do you think, Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, this is the thing. Like, I can't even say it's that they think we're stupid. They know we know that this is a cover-up. Like, what do you think Jeffrey Epstein was doing? If he were just a rich guy who liked young girls, you don't think a guy with his kind of money could get young girls whenever he wanted to? Like, what were you doing with the island and the flights and all of the wheeling and dealing? It was obviously some kind of an operation. If it were just a guy getting off in a perverse and, illegal way, there wouldn't have been that whole operation around it. He'd have kept a much lower profile. So I can't even say it's insulting to our intelligence because they know we know this is bullshit. And they know that they have to toe this line anyway. Sagar Enjeti was just on Tucker, and he said something that Tucker thought was very smart, and it was. He says, this is not so much a lie to us, the public. They're telling this lie to assure their criminal cabal that they'll go to every length necessary to protect them, even if it means tanking their credibility with the public. And I think that's absolutely true. But CNN put together this montage of
I'm sorry. Beyond this point, if you're running around every time they crack an immigrant skull, go, this is what I voted for, you are fucking pathetic, man.
Yeah,
you're pathetic. Like, come on, man. Yeah. And hey, to be fair, there are a lot of former MAGA people. We get them in the comments a lot saying, "I'm done."
Yep. I mean, if this ain't it, then I don't know what is. And this is it for a lot of people. That's why we're devoting as much time to this today as we are. That, and it's just fun. I mean, come on. This is funny shit here.
Sure.
So CNN put together a montage of the MAGA thermonuclear meltdown over the missing Epstein client list. So there's some sort of, meltdowns here, but then there's also video of Peter Doocy of Fox News asking Carolyn Leavitt, hey, what the hell happened? what the hell happened. No list, and let's see what she says, among some other things.
Most transparent administration ever.
What on earth is going on? Was Pam Bondi set up by deep state FBI career officials?
By the way, Liz Wheeler was also one of the Epstein files binder photo op people.
She's stupid? Is she so click thirsty that she got out over her skis trying to make news, being a Fox News star?
Pam Bondi, all of it. All those videos were saying, yeah, she's seen the videos. It's all coming out. And then now it doesn't exist. I mean, what? What?
The Jeffrey Epstein case, you do not know all the details of this thing, I promise. There are a lot of really obviously powerful people. This part you know, but the specific names we may not.
There were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on...
We just did. It's very fresh in our mind, what she just said.
And I'm just going to say, man, I mean, not being the most Jesus-y people in the world, this is a nuance that I would have missed. But some people have remarked on the fact that she is not wearing her cross in this press conference.
No, I noticed that too. She's not wearing her cross when she has to lie for Epstein.
Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein.
She was asked specifically about the list. We just saw that. We just saw that video.
Crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that.
This seems like unforgivable behavior. How could she give us those phase 1 binders that contained nothing while bragging about the cover sheet that she made, the most transparent administration in history, and tell us that the SDNY had the real goods? The binder was just proof of a deep state cover-up. That was the real story she told us. Only to now say, sorry, there's nothing.
Yeah.
If I'm President Trump, I wouldn't tolerate it.
Oh,
yeah, no.
She's a liability.
He doesn't
to
know
him.
anything about
She's not
this.
worth it.
Yeah, no, he had nothing to do with any of this.
He had nothing to do with it.
No.
He's
certainly not in
leader.
the files. It's
He's
certainly
being
not
betrayed.
Yeah. No, he wants everyone on that list exposed. He's definitely not on it, and he wants to expose everyone who is. It's just Pam. It's Pam Bondi's
He's being
fault.
betrayed.
He's being betrayed by snakes. He has bad advisors. So if you notice at the end there, Liz Wheeler's talking about how she was set up to look stupid in that Epstein files binder stunt, which is, I guess, the line now out of everyone whose career is permanently tarnished by having taken place in that stunt, including Jack Posobiec. So here's Jack Posobiec's version of events. That, hey, basically, we didn't know anything about those binders. They just gave it to them. They just gave those binders to us and then threw us out of the White House, and there were a bunch of cameras out there. It was all just a setup. We didn't know what to do.
I mean, we were all led down a train of thought that there was going to be all sorts of stuff coming out about this Epstein case, the files, the names, the lists, accountability, and then, boom, it's all disappeared.
Yeah, it appears. I mean, this is, as we would say in the military, unsat, completely unsat from Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Right.
And this line about there being files that are currently under seal in some criminal case, well, then great. Let's go and get those unsealed as soon as possible. Look, I was brought to the White House under the pretense of a series of policy briefings that were going to be held, not just from the AG, but from, we had the vice president came in, the president came in, Bobby Kennedy came in. So we had a rotating series of people from the administration, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and then nobody told them.
It suddenly started to smell like shit when she started handing out the Epstein binders. Bobby said, I'm not in those, right? You didn't tell me anything about those. Am I in those? Can I look at those?
Pam, you took a marker to these, right? Because there are a lot of people in there that are, as they used to say in the mafiosi, friends of ours.
Friends of ours in there. Yeah. Would have appreciated a heads up on this.
prior to this that the Epstein files would be anywhere even on the agenda for that day, and it was really sprung as a surprise to all of us. We
it was a surprise. Okay, so we were there to talk about other shit, and then they just gave us this Epstein shit and then kicked us out the door, and then there were cameras there. This is literally his version of events.
They told me they were handing out our fantasy football winnings from
yeah, right, exactly.
past season.
Yeah,
sprung as a surprise to all of us.
It was
we
a
get handed
surprise.
these binders, and then before we even have a chance to look into them, we're hauled out actually in front of the cameras that were all there because Prime Minister Keir Starmer was visiting the White House that day, and it just so happened that they were all in front of the West Wing. And by the time that we have the ability to actually go through them, well, lo and behold, we find out that it's all information that was completely already in the public domain. In fact, some of the information that was in the public domain was more extensive than what was given to us on that day. So the whole thing, obviously, I think, as you say, is a cock-up. I hope I'm using that phrase correctly. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but that certainly feels like what happened here. And
Betty
we don't
Johnson
have the
is familiar with
accountability
that
was
phrase.
spoken of.
Ask him
we
what it
don't
means.
have the releases that were spoken of, and it's indefensible. It's indefensible that the answers aren't there when so much was promised.
So much was promised. He was set up. Look at how caught off guard this guy is by all of that here. There he is. They weren't proud of themselves. Now look at libs of TikTok.
Not at all. Not
Liz
at all.
Wheeler, Eric Doherty.
No.
There he is taking
No.
selfies.
Yeah,
that wasn't the
they all
press who
tweeted
took
it
that.
out on their own accounts.
Yeah, they tweeted it out on their own accounts. Exactly. They tweeted that the Jack Posobiec thing, that's clearly a selfie or someone taking it of him on the side. That's not like press. Oh no, wait a minute. We haven't gotten a chance to look through these yet to make sure that they're like legit. Please, no pictures. We want to make sure that we, are representing ourselves. Well, no, obviously they are all about the clicks, all about the views. It was a big coup for them. And now they're trying to rewrite things to say, we didn't know anything about this.
Now they don't know what to do because they just like the access journalists that the new media was supposed to displace. Now you just have a new version with lower production values of access journalists. So people like Jack Posobiec rely heavily on their access to the administration. That's what a photo op like that is about.
Right.
But they just can't go along with this. They can't go along with it. This completely fucks them. Like, what do they do now? Do they become like dissenters against the administration? They can't do that. They're if I had to predict, and I think this will be proven very quickly, right? They're going to rend their garments and beat their breasts for about a week. And then they're going to dangle whatever the new bright, shiny object that allows them to run back to Papa is going to be and hope they can sweep this whole thing under the rug.
Well, some people have speculated that the reason this memo dropped when it did is because it's after a long string of wins. So they figure they had some political capital to burn because they got the bill passed and they got the Iran ceasefire thing, and this was considered a good week for Trump. We don't know that to be true. But yeah, his line now is that, we were essentially set up with bogus Epstein binders. Gunther Eagleman says, FYI, they are covering it up and they know we know. And they still don't care. That is correct, sir. But today...
Yeah, in a week, an immigrant will get eaten by an alligator. The same guy will be going, this is what I voted for.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There was a cabinet meeting today at 11 a.m., and of course, this came up. And so here is Donald Trump snapping at the reporter for bringing up Jeffrey Epstein. You're still talking about Epstein, he says. Here he is.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape?
Yeah, sure. If
could I just interrupt?
Okay, I'm going to show you that jailhouse tape, what the question is about after this, because Bondi does answer that question. But let's take a look at Trump just trying to shut this topic down entirely.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Yeah, just one guy.
Unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
A desecration.
How dare you? How dare you? We're deeply concerned by these people who are dead partly because I let some sociopathic Silicon Valley maniac run roughshod through the government, firing people willy-nilly. How dare you not focus on that without in any way blaming me?
Right. Exactly. So just so everybody understands what they're referring to when they talk about the tape. So the Justice Department said we're going to release unedited tape of security footage outside Epstein's cell door, and as CoffeeZilla, among many others, realized 1 minute was missing from the Epstein security footage. So as we can see here, it goes from let's see, where does it go? It goes from 11:57, 58 to 12 a.m. So 11:59 is missing. There. So it was not the unedited footage that they promised. Now, Pam Bondi does have an explanation for this, which she is going to get into.
Sure, that's good.
In this video.
To him, on Fox.
But you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Oh.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
So now they're saying there is no tape of him actually with the victims or anybody else, that was all just downloaded material from the internet.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
Yeah,
and
that's why we told Vincenzo, go in at 11:59 and be out by 11:59 and 59 seconds. Yeah. I love how you said the video itself was not conclusive, but the stuff before the video was conclusive. So her story is that there's a minute missing from that video every single night. Still, if you're gonna release a video with a missing minute, you probably just should not have released it at all. You're not doing yourself any favors there. So, I mean, this is just like I said. I mean, we covered this.
Nothing fishy there.
No. It's just a total shit show. I mean, it is a total nightmare for MAGA, for this coalition, because what I think people have to understand, people who are maybe a little bit surprised at the amount of blowback that they're getting for this. Okay, if you're online as much as we are, you kind of see, okay, there are certain spheres. There's like the manosphere, there's the incel sphere, and then there's like the conspiracy light sphere. And I say conspiracy light because I always said, Alex Jones is like the Cenk Uygur of the conspiracy theory world. He's the conspiracy guy who won't touch Palantir or Israel, right? He's the popcorn version of that. But where all those kind of worlds converge and collide, and what they all have in common is they all see, and this is what makes them very effective politically nowadays, I think this is a huge part of why Trump won, is they really see the political battle of our day as one between ordinary, grubby, salt-of-the-earth, traditional, God-fearing people versus this, like, nebulous
like
cabal.
Superman.
Yeah, like Superman, yeah. versus this like nebulous cabal of godless, hedonistic, pleasure-seeking elite liberals. Like that's what Davos represents, where they want to live high on the hog while, culling the herd and trimming the population so that they have more living space to enjoy, vegan food and casual sex and marriage without children. Like that is very much like the battle that they have set up, not only for themselves, but for their millions upon millions of followers. And this Epstein thing cuts right to the heart of that, because an elite pedo ring is the metaphor for the godless, hedonistic elites, much in the way that like the wall was the metaphor for Trump's 2016 campaign. What if Trump, right before November of 2016 in late October, he came out and said, you know what, change of plans, no wall. At that point, the whole campaign failed. The wall was everything. The wall was the glue that held it together thematically. The Epstein thing is the wall of this movement. It is the uniting story that holds all of these worlds together. You come out and you say, essentially, what Epstein thing? I mean, they're saying they're not releasing new information. There's no new charges. There's no list. They're essentially saying he was a lone actor. And I guess Ghislaine Maxwell procured girls for him and him only. So for them to come out and just say, essentially, this whole thing does not exist, that is devastating. That all of those worlds crumble as a result of that, because the Epstein story was the perfect emblematic. It was the issue that was so emblematic of the way so many disparate and often warring factions of MAGA even see the world. They all see it as a top-down struggle of the traditional American versus the globalist lizard people. And for them to say, nah, nothing to see here, that's devastating. The whole the house of cards just falls apart at that moment.
Well,
that's why that's why I'm sorry, I just have one more thing. That's why even these whorish influencers can't go along with it, because it's that key to their understanding of politics and their audience's understanding of the battle of the day. Sorry.
Well, this is what particularly the podcast class cannot afford.
Right.
It's not that this refutes the idea that you have these hedonistic population culling globalist lizard people.
Right.
It's that this group is part of that, which is what we've been saying from the beginning, that this is just another version. They sold you a version of that would neutralize the principal opposition.
Right.
The libs, psychologically, temperamentally, they're the kids who brought an apple to the teacher. They'll go along with literally freaking anything. You could tell them anything. They have proven that over the last several years. There is absolutely no proposition you can put in front of a lib presented as something backed by authority and experts that they will not sign off on. Literally nothing I've ever seen. These MAGA people, they're more ornery. They're more inclined to kick out the fence. You couldn't sell it to them that way. Harris could never have sold this globalist agenda to them. So, man, you take a little McDonald's pack in Butler, you slap it on your ear. Oh, they tried to delete the candidate. Gets back in office, and they do shit that if Harris had tried to do it, there would have been riots. There would have been riots. Oh my God, can you imagine the way they'd be storming the Capitol right now if a Harris administration had tried to pass this off as legit? Now what are you getting? A little bitching from podcasters? This is great for those globalists, man. I don't think that's conspiratorial that such a thing exists. I think it was foolish and naive to think that the whole system is not rigged on behalf of those people and that Trump is just a different face for the same phenomena that Harris represents. If they can't sell it to you with Harris, which frankly, I think they probably like that better. They find that less gauche. But hey, man, if they got to sell it to you with this vulgar reality star billionaire, fine. They'll sell it to you with that. In the end, it's heads they win, tails you lose.
Yep, 100%. Matrix says Sphincter Knucklebuster. Thanks, Matrix. Appreciate that. Paul Green Dennis, thanks for the $5. Bruce Wayne Batman is the billionaire Democrat and Lex Luthor is the Republican billionaire. Two sides of the same coin in their own ways. Thank you for that, Eric Torres.
It's an interesting observation.
When Krypton sends its people, they're not sending their best. Lex Luthor says Eric Torres. Thanks, Eric Torres. Appreciate that. Brad Gilbert says, help us, Officer Barbrady, our only hope. Duh. Thank you for that one. Good one. Race car, thanks for the $20. Race car says, little factoid for Russell, a cab driver in Florida mentioned that Universal theme parks pay $2 to $3 more per hour than Disney. Oh, interesting.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. Disney has a reputation for being one of the absolute worst companies to work for, from the parks to the studios, everything. It's supposed to be just an awful company to work for.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to take a quick game break here to plug the Misty Winston Show, which is every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the Do Dissidents Rumble channel. It's on Rumble and X exclusively, so please go follow us over on Rumble so you don't miss it. What we're going to start doing every Tuesday is showing a little brief video preview of the upcoming Misty Winston Show. So this is coming up tomorrow. So here's Misty for 1 minute, just giving you a brief 60-second rundown of what you can expect on the show tomorrow night. At 8 p.m. Eastern on Rumble.
Hey friends, Misty here with a quick look at what you can expect on the Misty Winston Show this week. First, join us as we welcome researcher and journalist Brad Pierce. We're going to take a look into his in-depth analysis and new article titled The UAE's Neo-Venetian Empire. It's a deep dive at the United Arab Emirates and their quiet yet pronounced rise over the past 25 years and what that means for the region and the world. Then stick around as we take a look at an article that I intended to get into last week, but got distracted. It's Trump's Big Brother bill expands the U.S. surveillance state, which is written by Derek Rose, friend of the show. We're going to discuss how the bill actually represents an expansion of the immigration police state and the use of artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and biometric data collection of Americans. And then we're going to take a look at the collapse of MAGA over the past week or so, the incredible levels of Cope on display, and Elon Musk's new party, and how that is nothing more than yet another sheepdog operation designed to keep people tethered to a broken electoral system. Who will fall for it this time? Tune in tomorrow, Wednesday, July 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. See you there.
All right. That is the Misty Winston Show. Thanks, Misty, for doing that tomorrow night, 8 p.m.
Very nice. Very well
Eastern.
done. We didn't talk to Misty about how we're negotiating to be the New York representatives for the America Party.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because that
Yeah, we
could
didn't
create
share-
a conflict.
Yeah, could create a conflict. Yes, yes, indeed. We'll have to have a talk before the show about that. Eric Rousseau, we protected Afghan poppy fields, so this would happen to Russia and China like in America, Zombieland. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that. For Zen's sakes, as I came to the conclusion that the purpose of communist propaganda was not to persuade, convince, or inform, but to humiliate, and thus the less it corresponded to reality, the better, says T. Dalrymple. Thank you for Zen's sake. Kevin G says, Joe Rogan doesn't even need to hire a researcher. Google Gemini creates great and comprehensive reports for you. Oh, good to know. Good to know. Maybe I'll ask them.
Listen, man, if he were to drop that I'm just a pothead moron asking questions excuse, he might start pissing off some rich and powerful people. He doesn't want to do that.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah,
know anything about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. How am I supposed to know? I only make hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't have any responsibility to my audience or anything.
Yeah. Hey, 2037 strong in the YouTube chat. And we have 600 and say we got 700. Wow. Okay, 732 likes. All right. All righty, folks. We are going to move right on along here. Okay, so, we have been highlighting some of the reactions, of course, to the Epstein list being essentially spiked by Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. But we gotta give Alex Jones his own segment here. How could we not? So Michael Tracy tweets out, Alex Jones, meet the old boss. same as the old boss. I think he meant meet the old boss, new boss, same as the old boss. The inevitable result of online conspiracy merchants becoming GOP flunkies. So here is Alex Jones. He's going live from the car a lot. I don't know if he's driving DoorDash nowadays to pay off some of these lawsuits, but he's doing a lot of streaming from the car. He seems to do a lot of work while driving. Maybe that is an efficient way to go. If in fact that's what he's doing.
I've got your hot wings.
Yeah. Listen. They forgot your root beer. Do you want me to turn around? It's 10 miles away.
I could go back.
I can go back, or else I can throw you $5.
Please don't report this, ma'am. I need this job.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly. All right. So here's Alex Jones talking about what a devastating blow this is.
Nothing the globalists wouldn't do to keep this from coming out. They've already tried to kill Trump repeatedly. Had they rolled over, I see a lot of signs that, Trump's pretty much in charge now. And so all evidence points towards them using the information to control the deep state. So meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The Who song won't get fooled again. This is going to be an unmitigated disaster. I don't know how they got Trump and the DOJ to do this, because the public...
How could they have gotten Trump to do this? How could a blackmail ring how could a blackmailer with access to very rich and famous people, how could he have gotten Donald Trump to do this? That is a tough one.
That's a brain buster.
Yeah, that is a brain buster. I don't know. That's above my pay grade to figure that out. How could a notorious New York-based black mailer with access to these very high-profile people who have a penchant for women, how could he have gotten Trump to go
who we
along
know
with it?
hung around with Donald Trump? We have lots of video.
How could he have gotten
Trump
him to go
partying
along?
with that guy?
I'm speechless. I don't know. I can't think of anything. I'm drawing blanks here. Let's see. Maybe he could put some flesh on the bones for us.
Is not buying it. No one is buying it. So I never saw any evidence of Trump involved in any of the stuff that came out. It was all fake. The fake Jane Does, all the crap.
Yeah, it's all fake.
E. Jean Carroll, the crazy leftist cat lady, all of it. So now, by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. It's just you cannot see it any other way. So I just got to the office. I'm gonna go throw up, actually, and this only happens every few years when something really, really bad happens or something. I'm physically gonna puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now because I have integrity.
I have integrity.
And,
I love
just
this
really
part.
need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out. And, the left, they're all complicit. They're openly promoting pedophilia. We know they're pure evil. And they'll think it's all...
So now he reverts to the culture war digs against the left, right? Now watch this. Watch where he goes here.
It's quite a dance.
They're all complicit. They're openly promoting pedophilia. We know they're pure evil. And they'll think it's all funny. Oh, look, Alex is sad. MAGA's tearing us apart.
Guilty as charged on that front, yes.
Your globalist masters literally want you to eat bugs and live in a 5G, 200 square foot coffin apartment. Look at the left. Look at them all.
Can you please direct me to the globalist masters who are eating bugs?
Oh yeah.
Can you please direct me to them?
Your globalist masters want you to eat bugs.
He's getting his conspiracy theory. That's how hard a dance he's doing here. We're the ones who are going to be eating bugs, I thought.
Right.
It's not the masters who are going to eat bugs. They're trying to get us to eat bugs.
They want us to eat the bugs. That's right. Here we go. Here's more.
Posing with their Pfizer shots, looking like dead zombies. Look at the left. Look at them all posing with their Pfizer shots, looking like dead zombies. Come on, you guys.
Oh yeah, well, you guys got the vaccine, so you're stupid. Fuck you. This is like wait, no, like if you're 9 years old and you're a sore loser and like you lose a board game against your friend and you just say, well, you're fat. You know, like you just just go to your go-to insult against somebody, just that, like, as you're clearly upset, like, oh yeah, well, you guys with your Pfizer shots, you think you're so smart? You think I'm having a bad day? What about those Pfizer shots in your arm?
Your globalist masters literally want you to eat bugs and live in a 5G 200 square foot coffin apartment. Look at the left. Look at them all posing with their Pfizer shots, looking like dead zombies. I mean, come on, you guys are sick. And so you shouldn't look at those of us that have a soul still and have integrity in pain over this and celebrate, you dumb pieces of fucking shit.
A trans with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
Oh, I love it. I just get so petulant at the end. Oh, yeah, well, you guys suck. Oh, yeah? Well, you're pathetic.
He just, no. I mean, as is often the case with Alex Jones, you know, he's a pure grifter.
Oh, it's a performer.
And very often you see him in real time trying to figure out how to keep his audience in the face of unfavorable events or information. You can see him just working through it here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's just absolutely no way that I can back their play on this, but I also can't turn on daddy. That's too much of my grift. Okay, redirect. That's what Tim Pool did. I quote tweeted that. Imagine what would happen if to the markets if people found out that Bill Gates was flying around.
Just go back to your standard
how much
MacGuffin,
you hate Bill
right?
Gates?
Yeah.
Remember?
Whatever exactly. Like whatever the standard hit that you could play is in that moment. Just go to that. Oh yeah, well, you guys think men should be swimming against girls? You know, like it may as well be that. You know, like a total non sequitur that has nothing to do with the issue at hand. But because they're embarrassed,
they have those coffin apartments. That's how they want you to live.
That's how they want you to live.
And they're gonna have 6 5G transmitters in that apartment.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, this is a point that Russell makes a lot. He made it a little bit in the last segment, but it's good to see this getting some airtime. So here's Steve Bannon's guest, who I've never heard of. No disrespect to him. I don't know who he is. He says, I don't even think the Biden administration would have written anything like the memo that started this whole firestorm, because I don't think they thought they could get away with it. This is what Russell says all the time. It took this crew to do this, because if the Democrats did this, there'd be pandemonium in the streets.
I think it came out last night, sir.
I don't know. I read the memo 3 or 4 times again this morning, and it's really, I don't think even the Biden administration would have written anything like this. I just don't think they could have thought they could get away with it. And I got to wonder what is going on at the leadership of the Justice Department and the FBI to allow them to think that statements like as follows. This is a classic. Of course, we're suing for this stuff, right? And so they say the systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So there's a client list, but it's not incriminating, so therefore you can't see it. There is also no credible evidence that found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. Well, give us the incredible evidence.
Here's the thing, like the fact that they're not giving up anything is the real slap in the face. Like anything. Like, look, they keep talking about how they did the MLK files and the JFK files. Those were pretty much nothing burgers. I mean, what they released, it's like of interest to people who obsess over the JFK case. But really what we mean when we say we would like the JFK and the MLK files is we want to know who really killed those two. Right? Like that's what we're looking like. They released about Martin Luther King that he had sex parties. Everybody always knew Martin Luther King had a lot of sex. So that's not really what interested us. We're interested in how he died and who was behind it. You think they could have done something like that for this? They could have given you something to say, here, we gave you what we had. This is what we had. This is all we have now. Maybe we'll get more in the future. And then that's it. No, nothing. No more information. And yeah, he's absolutely right. Like, Kamala could not have gotten away with this. You know who's also singing a similar tune? Michael Schellenberger over here at Public. This is a total fucking disaster. That is a source within the intel community gave him that quote for this article. We'll read a little bit of it. This is quite long, but we're only going to read a little bit. The strongest argument against the existence of a secret government run by the deep state was the re-election of Donald Trump in 2024. This is exactly what Russell had been saying. Hey, if he wins, I'm going to have to rethink things. If agencies like the CIA, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security truly exercise covert and unchecked control over American politics, it is difficult to explain how their most outspoken critic and avowed enemy returned to power. Trump did not merely criticize the intelligence community. He ran on a platform promising its reform. He vowed to purge partisan operatives, dismantle what he called politically weaponized agencies, and hold officials accountable for a pattern of lawless interference. And despite his direct confrontation with the national security establishment, Trump defeated Kamala Harris decisively, winning 312 electoral votes and a narrow popular vote majority. But now the Trump administration is attempting to sweep the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scandal under the rug, with the Justice Department claiming that there is no client list and that no further disclosure is warranted, even though Attorney General Pam Bondi explicitly stated publicly that there were, quote, tens of thousands of videos, which means the ability to identify the individuals involved in sex with minors, and that anyone in the Epstein files who tries to keep their name private has no legal basis to do so. Despite Trump's campaign promises to dismantle the deep state and hold elites accountable, his administration now appears to be protecting the same intelligence and law enforcement networks it once condemned. Few independent journalists have done more than we have, meaning at Public, to defend Donald Trump and the MAGA movement against the weaponization of the intelligence community and deep state agencies. Given all we have done to expose the censorship industrial complex and intelligence community abuses of power, Public's readers rightly expect us to follow through on these concerns, no matter who holds office. We did not spend years documenting unconstitutional secrecy, surveillance, and coercion, only to remain silent when the administration we defended begins to mirror the behavior we condemned. To prove it is not simply the latest custodian of the deep state, the Trump administration must release the Epstein videos and related evidence, fully expose the scope of the sex trafficking and apparent intelligence community blackmail operation, and ensure that every perpetrator, regardless of power or position, is held accountable under the law. This is a total fucking disaster, someone within the intelligence community told us this afternoon as we were going to press with this editorial. So Schellenberger puts it pretty well there. And he says, look, you know, no one's done more work than we have to expose the sort of deep state war against the MAGA movement. But now it seems as though either Donald Trump has been swallowed by the machine, or that he is, as they put, I think very well there, just the latest custodian for the deep state. And that is essentially what they were. And it is true that I think it took this administration to sort of launder that narrative through, because the Kamala crew just made themselves too toxic. The liberal wing of the deep state became too toxic for too many people. And so how were they going to able to massage these stories into the public without creating, you know, a revolutionary uprising, or at the very least, you know, serious civil unrest? Well, they had to sort of try and massage it into the opposition. Right. No, they're at war with the deep state. They're just telling you what? Nothing to see about Epstein. That is a leap, but it's a leap they're willing to make. They are willing to go there. They're ripping the Band-Aid right off, as you said, all at once before the midterms. We'll just weather the storm, see if we can get away with it.
Yeah, and hey, they're right. They're going to lose, as they have been losing, the smarter ones. They lost a lot of the smarter followers over the Iran collusion with Israel. A lot of people walked away over that. Now this is something else. They're going to be down to their dumbest, chuddiest people. Do they care? No, not really. You know, this is all just one big police state, and you just vote for different faces of it. with the Harris manifestation, the problem that they had is a left without an economic agenda is a left that can only push increasingly bizarre and unpopular cultural positions. What else can they do? There are people of a temperament, I believe, and there have been some studies that pretty well prove this, in any age who are temperamentally progressive. They're temperamentally progressive. They're just inclined towards kind of social justice activism. Now, 100 years ago, people with that inclination, even 50, 60 years ago, they would have gone into kind of working in the slums, right? They would have had an economic theory. A lot of them would have been part of socialist or Marxist organizations. They would have been pushing for the overthrow of the economic system. Well, if you want to make sure that people like that don't work towards real reform of the system, what do? You have to direct those energies into culture. Now, what happens when you direct those energies exclusively into culture? Well, they're going to go further and further out on a limb, creating problems to solve that most people don't even see as problems in the first place.
Right.
The advantage that the MAGA face has is, just straight up fascism. It's simple, it's easy, it's direct. We're going to round up these people. These people are ruining your life, and we're going to go get them, and we're going to send cops out on the street. Yeah, this is what I voted for. It's easy. It's easy. It's much easier to corral people around that message when the alternative has become some weird kabuki of cultural signaling.
That's definitely true. And it's true, I would say, in the short term. In the long term, the reason why these fascist movements crumble is because, like you said, everyone with any brains gets filtered out. And you're just left with a bunch of pretty fucking dumb fuck people.
Yeah,
right? Like, like you're left with the
hey,
people.
man, dumb people can do a lot of fucking damage, man.
I'm
a
not.
lot of damage.
Look, the Nazis were dangerous. They were temporary, but they were dangerous while they were in power. So I'm not arguing that. They're not a threat. Don't worry about it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the reason why history tends to purge itself of these fascist movements is because the people who are the most loyal to them are the fucking dumbest. Like at this point, they let the pedos off the hook the day before they send feds parading around MacArthur Park. The only people left to support this are people who don't see the irony of, hey, we just let the elite criminal gang off the hook, but we're searching for drug dealers with feds and bulletproof
Well, that's
vests.
the purpose of it.
Yeah, that's number one. And number two, people who see that as a solution to the problems plaguing Los Angeles as opposed to, just modest social democratic reforms, right? Like increased housing and increased wages, right? The people who appreciate what they're doing, I'm sorry, at this point, if you support this administration, you're either a sick bastard or you're a little fucking dumb. Like, that's it. Sorry.
Well,
I don't mean to
both.
be mean. I gave you a chance, but that's the that's the rub at this moment. And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. I mean, the first Epstein thing was a major purge. The Iran thing was a major purge. Look at how many promises this administration has broken already, and they're pretty severe promises. No new wars in the Middle East. They bombed Iran within 6 months. We're going to end Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. It's further from a peace deal than they've ever been. We're going to give you the Epstein list. No Epstein list. We're not going to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. They cut Medicaid. They're breaking big promises in a very short period of time. Who is there left to make excuses for this crew at this point? Never mind in a year from now, right? I mean, you are really talking about scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to people who are going to put up with this and support this and sign up for this. It's like I said, man, I've never seen an administration get off to this bad a start, ever. There have been some horrible presidents, George W. Bush, Joe Biden. They had honeymoon periods that lasted longer than this. This is really just unprecedented in the modern era, at least.
Look, man, there have been a lot of imperial collapses, the Romans, the Ottomans, the British. We are doing it with a kind of campy Vegas floor show panache that I think will be the envy of the world when the history is written. Nobody's ever done Imperial Collapse quite the way we're handling it.
Yeah, that is certainly possible. Goo81 says the same Superman movie that fired Bassem Youssef from the movie after his appearance on Piers Morgan. He was in that movie? They fired him? I didn't know that.
I never heard that.
I never heard that. I'll have to look into that. Thanks for that. $1 Million Trooper, according to Wikipedia, MS-13 did indeed start in L.A. Oh, okay. Near, if not. Oh, all right. Interesting. No doubt it's factored as being used to put the ick on this area to manufacture consent for fascism. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, next they should go to the Stone Mountain Correctional Facility, the birthplace of the KKK.
Yeah, the KKK. That's right.
Yeah.
Candace Owens finds out Lois has a dong and Superman tries to get a deplatform. Thank you, Get Up King. Appreciate that. Super Tard starring Jesse Waters. Thank you. Farm born and farm bred. Sure, Ben. Factory farm, perhaps. Thanks, China Shill. Appreciate that very much. What do we got here? Brad Gilbert. The body language guy shows that camera is not in front of Epstein's cell. It's the opposite wing looking over the officer desk. So totally useless angle. Interesting. All right. That's interesting. I got to look more into that.
Yeah,
video.
see, that's the thing with these kind of crackpot fascists. They're not competent. That is really their Achilles heel. Like anybody who would be willing to do this whole Trump abasement cult of personality thing in cabinet meetings in front of cameras, you're not going to get your best. They're not bringing their best. Right. These people are too stupid to do a cover-up properly.
Yes, I agree. All right, we got more Epstein stuff to do, but we're going to take a little break and cover Netanyahu's visit to Washington, D.C.
Yes. Mr. Genocide goes to Washington, we call this segment. All right, so Michael Tracy here. Netanyahu announces he's nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for enabling Israel to start a war with Iran and then bombing Iran himself. And with that, we are officially through the looking glass. We are indeed.
Express the appreciation and admiration not only of all Israelis, but of the Jewish people and many, many admirers around the world for your leadership.
Listen, cunt. You do not speak for Jewish people. You do not speak for me. Your fucking sick genocidal nation speaks for itself. Stop using Jewish people as a human shield for your sick apartheid regime.
Your leadership of the free world, your leadership of a just cause, and the pursuit of peace and security, which you are leading in many lands, but now especially in the Middle East. We have great opportunities. The President has an extraordinary team, and I think our teams together make an extraordinary combination to meet challenges and seize opportunities. But the President has already realized great opportunities. He forged the Abraham Accords. He's forging peace as we speak in one country and one region after the other. So I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well deserved, and you should get it.
Well,
Thank you
make
very
this
much.
shit
This
up.
I didn't know. Well, thank you very much. Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much.
From you in particular.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. It's a
I
great
mean, you
honor.
can't write this shit.
This is a man who is literally wanted for war crimes.
Yep.
Handing him a nomination for the Nobel Prize. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know what the process is for deciding who gets it. But Trump is not the first unlikely person to be nominated for a Nobel Prize. Hitler was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, so he's in good company there. And in terms of some of the winners of the Nobel Peace Prize, he wouldn't be the first war criminal to win it. It's from Ben Norton. The U.S. is helping Israel commit genocide in Gaza. They just waged war in Iran. Trump also bombed Yemen. Meanwhile, wanted war criminal Netanyahu has nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Then again, war criminals Kissinger and Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize, so it makes sense. Indeed. The Nobel Peace Prize has a pretty sketchy history when you look at some of the people who have won it. And this is our friend here, Saeed Mohammed Marandi. Trump and Netanyahu burned more Palestinian children alive last night. I sincerely hope Trump gets the Nobel Peace Prize. It will wake up the few people still asleep who foolishly think the West is civilized. Very well put. Adam here. We're going to elaborate on his contention a bit. Trump called Netanyahu the greatest man in the world right after betraying his base and tarnishing his legacy with the Epstein files. Whatever Trump did on that island was fucking horrifying. Let's hear what he said.
Do you think that there can be a two-state solution that creates an independent?
I don't know. I'd ask Bibi that question. You have the greatest man in the world to answer that age-old question, two-state. Go ahead. You give him your honest answer.
I think Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers should threaten us. And that means that certain powers, like overall security, will always remain in our hands. Now, that is a fact. And no one in Israel will agree to anything else because we don't commit suicide. We want life, we cherish life for ourselves, for our neighbors. And I think we can work out
Israel cherishes
a peace
life for its
between
neighbors.
us and the entire Middle East with President Trump's leadership. And by working together, I think we can establish a very, very broad peace that will include all our neighbors.
Okay. This is Michael Wolff here, who is not some tabloid journalist. He's won multiple awards. He's written 7 books. He's written for GQ. He's written for USA Today. Veteran journalist Michael Wolff claims Jeffrey Epstein showed him Polaroid photos of Donald Trump with topless young girls at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, possibly taken between 1999 and 2001. So let's hear a little bit of his interview.
Pictures exist, and I can describe them. There are about a dozen of them. The ones I specifically remember is 2 of them with topless girls of an uncertain age sitting on Trump's lap, and then Trump standing there with a stain on the front of his pants, and 3 or 4 girls kind of bent over in laughter. They're topless too, pointing at Trump's pants.
Okay, so can we prove that that's true? No, I'm inclined to believe that it's true, partly because it's such a specific story. He hasn't written a book around this, so what does he really have to gain making this kind of a claim? And when you look at the evidence surrounding it, the latest of which is the way they just squashed the Epstein investigation. I mean, that boosts the credibility of this account into the stratosphere. There was a woman, a Jane Doe, who introduced a civil suit against him 3 separate times, claiming that Trump assaulted her with Epstein when she was 13, and she withdrew it each time, saying she was getting death threats against her and her family. Can we prove any of this is true? No, but you know what I know? If this fact pattern were attached to, say, Joe Biden or really any Democrat, every single person to a person who supports Donald Trump would believe it. Every single person. On what grounds do you think that some trust fund casino owner, this isn't true about him? Why would you think that? Why would you believe that's not true about him? Like, why would all of these pretty well established circumstantial pieces of evidence not convince you that Donald Trump got honeypotted by Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, it's becoming increasingly obvious. I know you've got an Elon segment coming up. To me, that's another piece of incontrovertible proof. If Elon keeps his government contracts, yeah, he He went through the systems and he grabbed some stuff on the way out the door. So moving along, Trump mentioned weapons that are going to be sent to Ukraine. He had paused weapons shipments, but now he's ready to resume them.
Can you send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard. So many people are dying in that mess.
Well, you know, the best way to assure that less people are dying in that mess, send more weapons.
Yeah.
That's going to help. And, you know, Trump spouts off a lot, but no, this is real. The U.S. Department of Defense released a statement about the aid to Ukraine. Quote, at President Trump's direction, the Department of Defense will send additional defensive weapons to Ukraine to ensure the Ukrainians can defend themselves while we work to secure a lasting peace. Our framework for POTUS to evaluate military shipments across the globe remains in effect and is integral to our America First defense policies. And the tweeter here, Olga Bazova, says, so this is Trump's sole decision so that Trump bros know what they voted for. Exactly. How much longer can people say this is what I voted for? Like you're not getting Epstein. He didn't end the wars. So you're really down to brutalizing immigrants.
That's it.
And that's it. And you're not even getting what you voted for there because they're deporting immigrants at a lesser rate than the Biden administration did. You're getting the theater of brutalizing immigrants, but you're not actually getting the substance of the mass deportations that were promised. So at this point, I really want to know, for anyone who's still saying this is what I voted for, what exactly are you referring to? Like, men out of women's sports? I mean, California is refusing to go along. I guess you're getting that in some places, but you already had that. You already had all of these states that passed laws like that. So you can't even attribute that to the Trump administration. And presumably, even without Trump in power, this Supreme Court would have ruled exactly the way they ruled last week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty pathetic stuff. And 3 visits from Netanyahu in the first 6.5 months. This is his 3rd visit of the year to Washington, D.C. And it's just... it is grotesque beyond what any, satirical comedy writer could even imagine that Netanyahu would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And in terms of like the 2-state solution and stuff like that, I mean, this is essentially what we've always done, right? We've always basically deferred to Israel. I don't know if that is evidence of any blackmail, but clearly, whatever the details are, the important thing to know, even if you don't believe Michael Wolff, and we have no idea, right? But it is known that Trump knew Epstein quite well. He's been referred to as Epstein's best friend. Lots of video of him and Epstein. They swam in the same circles. And clearly, for whatever reason, Trump just feels he cannot cross Israel. Period.
Right.
That, in my opinion, is why he is really fostering this kind of relationship with Netanyahu, and it's why he's trying to get his criminal charges thrown out, because I think that is what Trump sees as perhaps the only off-ramp to World War III. This conflict with Iran is not over. We're in a respite phase. Thankfully, it has not blown up into World War III yet, but once again, I've said it over and over again, and the Tucker interview seemed to validate a lot of what I was saying. They're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying to instigate a war with Iran, and Trump is just completely helpless at the end of the day. So he has to try and weasel out of it. I think that's why he invites him to the Oval Office, to the White House. Here, we have not seen this ceasefire finalized. It has been in the news for a week that there's vague rumblings that a ceasefire has been agreed to by both parties that has not been implemented yet. We were hoping that would be implemented in advance of this meeting. No. Trump is looking pretty impotent. He is looking pretty weak through all of this. And on the Russia-Ukraine front, totally helpless. Totally helpless. I don't even know why Putin bothers talking to him. I don't even know why they have these phone calls. They come away with it. Putin just, well, I get. I mean, and if Trump's position is, look, we're just going to have to send more weapons, then at that point, what are you negotiating for?
Right.
What are you even doing that for?
Trump is there to give very satisfying cultural signaling to a certain portion of the population, while the deep state takes a level of control that they've arguably never had under any administration, because you have an incurious buffoon that only really cares about doing rallies, which suits them just fine.
Right. Exactly. He's very similar to Biden in that way, and that he's really not home. Right. Biden was totally absent from the public eye. Trump goes out and puts on his shows, his speeches, his rallies, and that. But in terms of policy, I mean, there's just no evidence that he has any command over any of this, even on the deportation side of things, where the numbers are lagging. Like, he is a showman. He knows how to put on a good show. All right, we'll surround them with alligators. That'll make the idiots happy. Beyond that, like, what are you actually doing? There's no leadership there. None whatsoever.
Well, look at that crew at the table. You got drunk Hegseth. You got Cuckoo for Jesus Puffs Huckabee over there. I don't know who the guy in between was. I mean, that is not a serious country. A country that would put people like this at the head of it. It's not even a moral question. It's a competence question. That is not a country that is going to be able to maintain a position of leadership in the world for very long.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, folks, we're going to take a short game break here to tell you about A Bard and a Guitar, which is the album, which is the artist, I should say, behind the album called Dogmatics. So Dogmatics is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting, and this satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand, featuring reinterpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Find it on most music streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by A Bard and a Guitar, or you can follow the link that we made, dudissidents.com/bard, where you can find the links to check out all of his music. So please go and do that and give it a listen and support our dissident community and our dissident sponsors. That's Dogmatics is the album name by A Bard and a Guitar. Okay. Let's go to some super chats here. Artie Blarty Fartblast says, Epstein, I don't know him. Munoz, thanks for the 199. Appreciate that. Andy Gardner says, how many more rotating hero villain cycles do you think we have left? Gonna to lose my Badger care soon, and honest revolution has been on my mind. Well, the hero villain cycles are what keeps it alive. That's for sure. Tom, lately and moving forward, my one and only response to these Zionist supporters and genocidal apologists is fuck off, baby killer. Yeah, I don't blame you. Artie Blarty Fartblast, people are saying best Imperial crash ever. Yes, indeed. Certainly the funniest. Kenman says Daryl Cooper thinks Superman is fine. He should live in a country or planet with other Supermen. Why live among humans? He makes a good case with a 10,000 hour podcast. Thank you, Kenman G. Appreciate that. 007 Angela says, I know what Shapiro would say about a bunch of immigrants that invaded Palestine. Crickets. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Vito, thanks for the $10. To be fair here, maybe Bondi's dog ate the Epstein file. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Thank you, Vito. Appreciate that very much. Mark Pugliese, dude, ever seen a British indie Down Terrace? I have never seen that one. You seen that one? Down Terrace, is that a British movie? I have not seen that one.
No.
EO Shush, Bibi Netanyahu made a quick stop to drop off his laundry and pick up the Epstein files. Yeah, there you go. Yes. Good one. Good one, my friend. Boogie, friend's car was totaled after being hit by an illegal alien, and they hopped the border and left him with the bill. My sister's social security number was stolen, and her credit is still frozen over a decade later. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't wish that upon anybody, obviously. Settler Psycho, Daniela Weiss was also nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. Unfortunately, not joking. Yeah, I believe that. Alex Jones looking more divorced than ever, living in his car, ranting into his phone. Thank you, China Shill. Appreciate that very much. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. Copied and pasted that. All right. We will move right on along. All right, folks. This is a quick segment here. Remember, we said of Elon's America Party launch, it's kind of an unfortunate weekend to launch the America Party, whose ethos is essentially that Doge didn't go far enough on the weekend when Doge probably killed a bunch of people in Texas with those floods because they did not have the staffing to coordinate the weather service responses, or more importantly, the alert systems in advance of the flooding. But Elon got a little redemption this week with the spiking of the Epstein files. So here is Elon, way back in 2024, saying if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public. Here he is.
I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
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 By yes, I mean no. Yes. 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 On second thought, no.
Going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoff?
Well, turns out that was not to be, and Elon felt very
I
burned.
was just going to get into Reid Hoffman.
Yeah, I was just going to get into there. The video cut off. Elon Musk is not happy about the Jeffrey Epstein memo. No, he went on quite the tweet storm here, so he posted this meme here. We will release the Epstein list. We just need more time. The Epstein list is on my desk. There is no Epstein list. Autism Capital, which is probably like the Batman to Elon's Bruce Wayne. He probably is Autism Capital. It's probably his superhero account. What happened to the client list is on my desk. What happened to the Epstein files part 2? What happened to those magical binders? What a farce. And he says, this is the final straw. He also tweets this out. The official Jeffrey Epstein pedo arrest counter, 0000. What's the time? Oh, look. It's no one has been arrested o'clock again. Yes, he really took some victory laps. Now, here's Alex Jones. So you see Alex Jones at the end of the day. I mean, Alex Jones is one of these guys where, like, I guess if you make him choose between Elon and Trump, he'll probably choose Elon since Elon gave him his platform back. Elon made him relevant again.
Kind of has to, yeah.
I mean, for years, you could only find Alex Jones on the InfoWars website. Now he's on X again, which means he's got a lot more cachet. So he replies, next, the DOJ will say, actually, Jeffrey Epstein never even existed. This is over the top sickening. I like this tweet. This was funny. And Elon thought so, too. Jokes on Epstein. Turns out the state didn't have any evidence. Never kill yourself. Yes. Never give up. Never give up. If you're innocent, maintain your innocence and don't give up. Elon thought that was pretty funny. Here's a tweet from J.D. Vance from 2021. Wow, that Ian Carroll fished out. Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child sex trafficking ring? And then that guy died mysteriously in a jail, and now we just don't talk about it. Yep, that is J.D. Vance. That's before he even became a senator. That's 2021.
Yeah.
That's best-selling author J.D. Vance. Ian Carroll.
That's before they gave him a good talking to.
That's right. Pepperidge Farms, remember, says Ian Carroll.
Hey, so you know your patron, Pete? You know Peter Thiel? You know that guy? Yeah, he had a pretty close relationship with Epstein. He was on that plane quite a lot.
Yeah. So you better run for Senate and become vice president and then shut the fuck up about it. So Elon boosted that with a nice emoji reply. Angela Belcamino says, I think we can all agree that if Democrats are on the Epstein list, lock them up and throw away the key. If Republicans are on the Epstein list, lock them up and throw away the key. We demand justice for the victims and accountability for perpetrators. Agree? Elon, 100. Elon agrees. Now you could really see Elon, and you couldn't have foreseen this happening months ago. Now he's starting to stick it to some of the MAGA influencer shills who, just months ago, I mean, they were up Elon's ass and he was up theirs. But libs of TikTok, this is a tweet from September 2024. Trump says he will release the Epstein client list if elected. The Democrat elites are shaking right now. Elon brought this tweet back to relevance by
Wow.
replying, anytime now, 3:13 a.m., July 7th. So shots fired against libs of TikTok. And here's how you know he's really left the club. Starlink now available in Qatar. So turns out this was actually not the worst week to launch the America Party. We thought this was going to be unfortunate timing, but now it looks like Elon may be in a position to scoop up some of these disaffected MAGA people. How crazy is it that, like, the beginning of his, I mean, you had rumblings of his breakup with Trump before, but what really started it was the Epstein tweet. What really started it was him saying, hey, the real reason these Epstein files haven't been released is because Donald Trump is in them. Have a nice day, DJT. And now here he is, days after starting his new party, ready to capitalize on this. So it's kind of fun to have Elon trolling not only Trump, but some of the MAGA influencers as well. Like I said, it's a very T-Rex Jurassic Park dynamic where the villain is doing God's work for the wrong reasons at the end of the day. That's the phase of this we're in with him.
Well, what really saved me from being in those files is I don't have sex with anyone. I can't get pregnant. So,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Jeffrey really had nothing to offer me.
I only believe in procreative fornication.
That's it. I'm straight missionary. I'm a straight missionary guy.
Yes,
with
very efficient.
over
In and out.
18-year-old women exclusively.
In and out in 2.5 minutes. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty amazing turn of events, but it does once again demonstrate what happens when you get a bunch of psychopathic narcissists trying to cooperate on a political project. It's not going to last. Too many egos and nobody really willing to sacrifice for the team. How is that going to end? It's going to end in a blow up over one thing or another, and they're going to go to war. They're going to go to war. Elon is an enormous ego, and whatever happened with them, who knows what, I mean, maybe he's such a fruitcake. The idea that they're going to keep pushing up the deficit, it might be that simple, like he wanted to see, people die on the streets, I guess, more cuts to social programs, get rid of Scrooge, like get rid of the surplus population. It's a win-win. How else is he going to be the Genghis Khan of our age, from which all people are descended in centuries hence, if we don't get everyone else out of the gene pool? But it seems like, he, I really did get angry about not having the impact that maybe he thought he had over process. Or, he could be whacked out on drugs, like they say, or a combination of all of those things. It is pretty amazing because I don't see how this does not hurt his business. But again, if he does not lose his government contracts and he's going at Donald Trump, who went, as soon as he got in office, the first thing he did was go after every law firm he had a grudge against. He went after every network that he had a grudge against, multiple lawsuits. SpaceX just did a launch. They just did a launch. They still have all of their contracts. He hasn't canceled any contracts. If it remains like that, Elon either left with some Epstein shit or he knows enough to bluff Trump into not retaliating.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. I don't know.
I see no other reason Trump would not cancel his contracts.
I think it might look bad. I think it might look pretty bad. It might look like just brazen, petty retaliation. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, Trump is a guy who really worries about being perceived as petty.
I don't know. That high profile, I don't know. I'm not sure.
No. I take that as an absolute smoking gun. If 3 months from now, Elon Musk still has all of his government contracts, he either took shit or Trump thinks he did.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, it's ultimately unknowable. But what's not unknowable is that he did take it hard, and that he is an ego comparable to Donald Trump, which is why I knew this. I mean, I one of the predictions I made for 2025 that I was most confident in was that Doge would fall apart. Because there's no way Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to be able to keep it together.
It's looking more and more like Vivek dodged a bullet, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I just knew there's no way these two are going to be able to keep it together for a year. They're just they're too egomaniacal. They're too powerful. They're used to being top dog, and
Right.
Donald Trump in this context is top dog because he's the president. Now, Elon swings a very big stick with all that money and all these threats to primary challenges and things like that. But at the end of the day, these guys are not going to be willing to share that spotlight. They're not going to be willing to share that power. They're not going to be willing to negotiate with each other. And you got Donald Trump, too, who, is so lazy that he's not even up for like an ideological debate or a compromise with Elon. This is what they can get to my desk. It's big. It's beautiful. I'm signing it. The same thing he did with the Obamacare shit. It didn't work because McCain saved the day at the last second. But he didn't take any interest in the specifics of that bill, just like he took no interest in the specifics of this.
Right.
Did you see Donald Trump going out, wheeling and dealing to make sure the AI shit stayed in? No, he didn't care. All right, they took it out, whatever. It's still the big, beautiful. Like, he doesn't want to engage on the level that you would need to if you were actually going to like broker a deal with a guy like Elon. He's just too lazy. So it was obviously going to fall apart, and it has. And it's just funny that, the week Elon announces this America party, this happens, and gets a lot of press out of it. All right. What else we got here? We got Kevin G says, but seriously, Google Gemini produces fantastic reports on any topic with superb sourcing. I highly recommend it and use it professionally and personally. No, I seriously will look into that for sure. For sure. Anything to make my job easier, I'm into. I'm sure this group is really interested in getting to the bottom of the MLK assassination so they could build a statue of the assassin. Yeah, good one. China Shill. Thank you very much. Julius Patty says Israelis have figured out that Trump has the intellect of a little boy who yearns adoration. Notice how Netanyahu keeps buttering him up with fake praise. Yes, well, that's the thing. They do know the way to his heart, for sure. Okay. Why don't we move right on along here? We got more Epstein stuff later on, but we also got, what do we got? Oh, yeah, Tucker interview. Oh, yeah, some serious news.
Some serious news now.
Oh, yeah, a serious one.
All right, so Tucker had a sit down with the president of Iran. Now, we can make a very important announcement now. We have mentioned that we have expanded our staff. Gen X Girl is coming on board to help with research and with segment preparation. So give her a warm, Do Dissident welcome. She has an awesome account. Definitely give her a follow. So she put together a great little montage here of all of the Tucker's Not America First backlash that he got ahead of the interview even dropping.
America first. America first.
How dare he do journalism and interview a foreign leader? How dare he? So you can see right there, Gen X Girl is going to class up the joint. So welcome her.
Yes, looking forward to that. Go follow her.
Looking forward to some of the collabs like that that we're going to be doing going forward. Primo Radical says the former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was interviewed many, many times in U.S. corporate media. Why is there a different standard around Tucker Carlson interviewing the president of Iran now? Very good question. All right, so we're going to take a look at a few of these clips. It's definitely worth checking out the whole interview. There's a lot of good stuff we're not going to get to. It's only about 25 minutes. Here he says that the International Atomic Energy Association, right? That they basically doctored the report to give Israel the premise to bomb them.
As a result of the last report by IAEA, the type of the report and the way they prepared the report somehow gave an excuse to the Israeli regime and prepared the ground for their unlawful and unauthorized attack against our nuclear facilities. And even after that, the IAEA failed to condemn these attacks or try to anyway to stop them, and this ran counter to the international law, and this resulted in a widespread lack of trust among the Iranians, Iranian legislators, and the public opinion here.
So it's a pretty damning accusation. He's basically saying they were working in cahoots with the Israelis to give them a premise for doing what they did.
Yeah, again, I mean, like, not provable, but then again, Tulsi said they're not working on a nuclear weapon just 90 days before the bombing.
Right. Well, a lot of these institutions, and he talks about this in another place. You know, a lot of these institutions that we think of as, or we're taught to think of as upholding values, are really just tools of Western imperialist foreign policy. You just don't usually hear that about the Atomic Energy Agency, but that's the claim that he's making. So here Tucker asks him if they have been plotting to assassinate Donald Trump, and also about this idea of there being Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S.
As a result of
Has Iran ever backed an assassination attempt against Donald Trump?
This is actually what Netanyahu is trying to insinuate and to make your people or the president of your country to believe. But this is wrong, because Netanyahu, as I said, has its own agenda. It wants to drag the U.S. into forever wars, as I said, and to bring more insecurity, instability, and unrest to the whole region.
There are some large number of Iranian nationals living in the United States. Some have said they are, quote, sleeper cells. They are terrorists who are acting at the command of your government. Would you right now make a statement to Iranian citizens living in the United States not to commit acts of violence in the United States?
You see, these things you're telling me, this is the first time I'm hearing them from you or from anybody. You know, the Iranians are known for their knowledge, for their science, for their courtesy, for being civilized. Have you seen otherwise from them? Any other kind of behavior from them, or any violent behavior? Has anybody ever seen anything from them? Yeah, as I said, this is what Israel is trying to put into your minds. They are propagating that Iranians might be capable of doing such a thing, but this is totally untrue, because by nature Iranians are pro peace and tranquility, and they're trying to actually to somehow impact the minds of the decision makers and the people of the United States, and to scare them into getting involved in a war in my region that is not going to ensure any kind of interest for the United States. It is not to be in the interest of the United States to be involved in any kind of war in my region.
All right, so he goes back to that quite a few times, that this is basically Netanyahu trying to engineer a war with us. Floating the idea that there are these Iranian sleeper cells that are going to be activated in the United States. I'm sorry, to me and to a lot of people, that sounds like laying the grounds for a false flag operation. There's been no history of Iranians. So why all of a sudden, there are these secret Iranian sleeper cells. When you have Iranians in the United States, usually they're political dissidents who love the Shah, in my experience. So where would this be coming from?
What would be in it for that? Why would Iran want
right?
to attack,
Why would
the
they
United
do?
States?
Why would they do that? So
At
we
a
could bring the
moment-
full force of our military against them.
At a moment when Israel is attacking them and Israel is trying to get us to join in attacking them, and they succeeded to an extent before this respite, and then God knows what's going to happen as the months go on. But yeah, what would be in it for them? It's absurd. I mean, it's just patently absurd.
And why assassinate Donald Trump when American foreign policy is bellicose regarding Iran, no matter who the president is.
No matter who the president is.
So what are you going to get out of that? Like, why? What juice are you going to get that's worth that squeeze?
Kamala Harris in the 60 Minutes interview said Iran is our main foe. So
our main
there you
foe.
go. I mean,
what's the point?
There's no motive there either. It's ridiculous. I just have to say, while we're paused here, a lot of the haters who, were part of that montage of people who were, apoplectic about Tucker doing this, were saying, "Oh, I bet he doesn't ask about the assassinations, or I bet he doesn't ask, about the hidden sleeper cells." He asked all those questions. Those are tough questions. He asked them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this probably got the most attention. He points out, as many will point out about all of these supposed axis of evil countries, who do they invade? Where are all their military bases? Who has military bases all around the world? So he kind of gets into that a bit here, because Tucker asks him if the U.S. should be afraid of Iran.
This is a very wrong impression that anybody might have of Iran or the Iranians. I would like to remind you that Iran has never invaded another country in the last 200 years. When they say death to the United States, it doesn't mean death to, they don't mean death to the people of the United States or even to the officials of the United States. They mean death to crimes, death to killing and carnage, death to supporting killing others, death to insecurity and instability. This is, have you ever heard that an Iranian killing an American? Have you ever heard that? Or a terrorist that was Iranian and he carried out a terrorist attack against the Americans? No, it was your president who confessed that the Americans created the ISIS in our region, and they were responsible for this wrong image that is portrayed of religion or the Muslims in the world. And once again, I would like to tell you and remind you that this is not death to the American people or to the officials, death to crimes and atrocities, to bullying, to the use of force, and anybody who would like to become an accomplice in the crimes perpetrated by others.
Okay, so I think he's probably overstating it. We know that Iran has used proxies to attack American troops in the region. To that, I would say, I mean, fair play. right? I mean, we're taking aggressive action against them. He, for whatever reason, felt a need to take it to the extreme of we've never had any aggressive action against the United States, rather than to say these are defensive actions, which is something I think you could plausibly claim. In terms of, do they mean death to America? Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty funny that they negotiated a nuclear arms treaty with the United States that Trump then went and broke, and were willing to sit down and negotiate this arms treaty again after they had already been betrayed by us once, if they are obsessed with bringing down the U.S. in that broader sense. So I think that's probably true, along with a lot of things we hear about Iran. He brings this up at another point in the interview, and this is true. They have a Jewish member of parliament in Iran. They have synagogues. They have the largest Jewish population outside of Israel in the Middle East. If everything we're told about Iran, death to Israel, if that actually does connote anti-Semitism, how could any of that be possible? How could there be a large and thriving Jewish population in this country? You know, it's very difficult without going there, as Max did, and spending some time there to really say what it's like in the country. But we know from certain facts like that what we are told cannot possibly be true. If it were true, a Jew could not live in Iran. It would be impossible.
Right. Exactly.
So he goes on, Tucker asks him about whether we could open up negotiations with the United States again. And he says a few different things about this at different points in the interview. He talks about how really it's Israel interfering and they welcome having negotiations. But here, in a pretty heartfelt moment, I think, he talks about how, man, these are real people who were killed because of American betrayal. How are they supposed to really trust the United States again when they basically set them up for the slaughter by pretending to negotiate in good faith?
We see no problem in re-entering the negotiations. But before that, I have to remind you that because of the atrocities by the Zionist regime, by Israel, not just against my country, but in the whole region, we are now facing a crisis. The people are facing a crisis that we need to put it behind ourselves. Our commanders were off duty. They were spending the night at their homes with their families, but they were killed. And this is considered a war crime according to the international law, because they were off duty, as I said. Or our scientists were also killed and assassinated along with their families and their wives and their children. They were also killed. Pregnant women, children, they were killed in the atrocities, in the attacks of the Israeli regime. Just because they wanted to kill one single person, they had to demolish and destroy a whole building. And as a result of this, a lot of innocent people were killed. A lot of people were killed. And as I said, there is this crisis that we have to put it behind ourselves. And there is a condition, there is a provision for the restarting the talks. How are we going to trust the United States again? We re-enter the negotiations. Then how can we know for sure that in the middle of the talks, the Israeli regime will not be given the permission again to attack us?
It's a fair question.
Well, of course.
So couple of, let me just wrap up.
Yeah.
Couple of responses. They wanted you to be mad at Tucker Carlson for interviewing a world leader while they mopped up the Epstein Mossad blackmail op and finished the Diddy cleanup. All these Israel first seditionists hate you. They fly American flags while serving a foreign nation. Wake up. And this from Mel, as somebody said of the interview, was Satan unavailable? And she responded, Tucker said he submitted 3 separate requests to speak to Netanyahu, and they've all gone unanswered. So to answer your question, yes. Yeah, hey, we literally used negotiations for an arms deal as a distraction tactic to set this country up to be attacked by Israel. How can they trust us going forward? How can any country trust us going forward? And this is not just Donald Trump. What we did to Gaddafi was a terrible precedent for trying to negotiate with people not to develop nuclear weapons or any weapons of mass destruction. Look how that ended for him. You think he would have ended his life with a knife up his ass if he had developed nuclear weapons? That arms deal, you could argue, led directly to that horrific death. Nonetheless, the Iranians, at another point in the interview, he mentions that there's a fatwa against developing a nuclear weapon, that they're religiously proscribed from developing a nuclear weapon. So yeah, the idea that we are so offended by the internal affairs of Iran that gives us some plausible justification while we just sell $400 million in weapons to Saudi Arabia. That is absolutely absurd. One thing that always strikes you when you watch these other world leaders, whether it be the leader of South Africa, the president of Iran, Vladimir Putin for that matter, is what buffoonery we have running this country. Whatever you think of them, these are intelligent people, articulate, able to present their case in a way that is obviously very thoughtful. And then you got Donald Trump. Yeah, well, why don't you talk to? We got the greatest person over here to answer.
Yeah,
If you're not embarrassed by that, you're not paying attention.
Well, yeah. I mean, that last question, first of all, you mentioned Saudi Arabia. I was going to mention, Saudi Arabians killed a lot of Americans too. And we're still allies with Saudi Arabians, right? They killed our people in New York, if we are to believe everything we are supposed to believe, like good boys and girls about that day. Then, why are they still our allies? To the extent Iran has killed Americans, they were on battlefields that in wars that we started. I mean, that's like saying the Vietnamese killed Americans. Well, yeah, they did. So what, are we going to go take over their country now?
I think he decided he didn't want to litigate that.
You mean Tucker?
No, I think the president of Iran didn't want to litigate why they fought Americans in that region. So he just kind of, I mean, what he said was simply not true. Since the revolution, that when have you ever heard of an Iranian killing an American? Come on.
Well, here's the thing. I think the reason for that is because I think they are trying to pursue a diplomatic solution. We know they were. Because that's why they signed the Iran deal in the first place. And this goes into the final thing. Tucker asking that question, okay, can we restart talks? That's why this act, this 12-day war, was such a disaster. And I see a lot of people breathing, sighs of relief as if it's over because they're not in a hot war today. But this is a diplomatic catastrophe because now, what incentive do they have to resume talks? And if they can't resume talks, then at that point, it's only a matter of time before Israel makes another move. And we have no reason to believe they won't, none whatsoever. So at that point, what do we do? That, I think, is a lot of why Tucker decided to do this interview. We know Tucker knows the president. We know he has the president's phone number. We know they talk from time to time. I think this is Tucker's way of saying, hey, maybe if I get this guy on a Zoom call for 20 minutes, some of this will make its way to Donald Trump, and perhaps there could be some kind of off-ramp. The odds are against it, but I think maybe this was his way of trying. The idea that it's journalistic malpractice to interview an adversarial foreign leader is preposterous on its face. I mean, Bill O'Reilly did it. I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world that is within bounds, if not necessary to do. Like, ostensibly, we're trying to avoid a war, right? Isn't that still the position of the United States, that we're still trying to avoid a war? Isn't that still the official position of Trump? Let's make a deal. Trump said, "God bless Iran." He said that. He said that when the fighting stopped. When they procured the ceasefire, he went from they say death to America, and he went from that to God bless Iran, right? And God bless the Middle East. Like, isn't the official position that we still want peace? So then what is the problem with talking to the president? And what's the problem with asking him these things to see where they're coming from, to see? And even when he obfuscates the way he did on that, well, they don't kill Americans thing, the reason he's obfuscating it there shows you where they're coming from. Isn't that important information to have and to relay to not only the public, but to the people who are making these decisions about how necessary a conflict, an armed conflict with them is, a conflict that will be disastrous beyond anyone's imagination for the world? So, yeah, I mean, good on him for doing it. We knew he was going to take some heat. He didn't softball it. He asked them all the tough questions that people said he wouldn't. And now you have their perspective. That is the job of journalists, is to expose people to as many perspectives as they can and get information as to where these people are coming from. It's especially important now since Israel can try to restart this war any day. Any day. And that is what we're dealing with, because negotiations have broken down because of this 12-day war. And that's another thing he said there. Like, yeah, how can we negotiate? First of all, we had to deal with you. Then you broke it. Then you let this country while we were talking again, your proxy, your ally, bombed us. And then you went and you struck our nuclear sites to back them up. Right. So how are we supposed to resume talks? That's, I think, pretty important information to have access to at this moment.
Yeah, that standard of journalism is a casualty of the journalists industry, such as it is, deciding that they're under an obligation to take a side, to take a political side. You know, Taibbi wrote quite a lot about that, particularly in Hate Inc., how they kind of opened Pandora's box. That when Trump got elected, they decided that they can't be the press that abided Hitler, right? They have to challenge Hitler. And that's it, man. Down that path, madness lies. Once they went down that path, now all of your choices are going to be determined by political effect. Exactly the opposite of what a journalist should be thinking about. Well, I can't interview this person. That doesn't fit the agenda that I'm representing. Well, now you've lost all credibility as a journalist as soon as you start thinking this way.
Exactly. If the goal is peace, and I think we all broadly agree that the goal is peace, the goal is to avoid war, the goal is to avoid killing and death,
right?
Then the only way to do that is through diplomacy and negotiation. And if the Israelis have sabotaged our ability to negotiate as states, then I think it's a pretty noble act for a journalist to step in and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can get a conversation going.
Dude,
I have a platform.
At the height of the Cold War, if you landed an interview with the Russian premier, at the height of the Cold War, the idea that somehow you were hurting America by doing that interview, the most rabid Cold Warrior would not have suggested something like that.
Right.
It was understood this is what a journalist does. That would have been a score.
Right. Well, and in the example of the Cold War, the goal was to keep it a Cold War. The goal was to not make it, blow up into a hot war. And the fact that the Israelis seem bent on doing that, and you have a chorus of morons trashing Tucker Carlson for engaging in this dialogue, shows you they want war too.
Yep.
So if everyone wants war, it falls on the people who want peace to pursue it however they can. And because these official state-sanctioned negotiations have been completely rat-fucked by the Israelis, who went ahead and bombed them amidst current negotiations, well, at that point, it falls to prominent
Right.
journalists to say, hey, you know
Right.
what? Let me have a conversation that millions of people will see, and maybe we could do sort of secondhand diplomacy in that way. It's worth a shot. Worth a shot.
Right.
Is it likely to work? No, but I don't got a better idea. I don't think any of these fucking morons on Twitter do either.
Right. You don't want this to fall to Tucker Carlson. Do your fucking job.
Do your fucking job.
I am
Right.
quite sure
Exactly.
if NBC, CNN, any of these outlets invited him on, he would go.
Right. Exactly. All right, folks. Hey, if you like what we do here, you can help us do more of it by becoming a member. Very important to the health of this project to get members enrolled. So dudissidents.com/Patreon, dudissidents.com/Substack, or dudissidents.com/locals. If you're watching on Rumble right now, that bright red join button underneath the screen takes you to our locals page. And so the membership is what keeps the show going. You guys are the backbone of the project. Perks of joining include your name up in lights here on the member scroll. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday night over on Rumble. You also get bonus content. Once a month, we do a post-game segments, which are more segments than on the main show. We switch over to a private stream for the end of the main show. We do additional segments, plus we take your calls. You also get Film Club live streams. You also get ad-free replays of every live stream the day after it airs. So if you miss a show and you don't want to watch it back with ad interruptions on the main channels, you can access it on our Patreon, Substack, or Locals feed, where we'll send you an email to an ad-free replay of that stream. And so you guys are keeping the show going. You also make it possible for us to hire help, which makes it possible for us to expand operations. We're bringing on Gen X Girl as a segment producer later this month. That's going to give Russell and I time to expand operations. Russell will be doing video essays. I will be sort of editor-in-chief, if you will, of our online magazine, which we are going to be getting started later in the month. So subscribe to our Substack. Even if you can't join as a paid member, if you can, that helps tremendously. But even if you can't, dudissidents.substack.com. That's going to be the main hub for our online magazine, which will be up and running by the end of the month with written pieces, contributions, interviews, all kinds of stuff we can do there. The possibilities are endless on Substack. So join there as a free or a paid subscriber, and you'll have access to that. But your membership is what allows us the budget to hire help, which allows us the time to expand. So the members are what are making that happen. We simply could not do it without you guys. So thank you very much for your support. That's dudissidents.substack.com, patreon.com/dudissidents, or dudissidents.locals.com to join. Thank you very much, of course, for all of your support. Okay, what do we got here? Brandon McNamara says, so powerful he resorts to torturing powerless people. That's right. That's right. Looking pretty weak indeed. What did I vote for, Russ? Gators? I voted for Gators. Gators are the most challenging, the best gardeners, house painters, and HVAC workers of the lower 48. Gator done. Gators yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Russell, don't knock Jesus puffs till you've tried the ones with marshmallows, crowns of thorns. Yes, thank you.
Actually, that's a great business concept. We should develop that.
That would be a funny one. Yes. Yes. Let's see. Vito P says, Greg Abbott says taxpayers would not pay for flood warning systems. Did they really want to pay for the transportation of immigrants to other states? Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Yeah, we were going to do that today. We just had so much stuff to do. We will probably do that Thursday unless Misty does that tomorrow. I know Misty wanted to do something on the floods. So if she gets to it tomorrow, we'll clip it. If not, we'll cover that on Thursday. But yes, that was on our radar. I am the owl. You guys make good points against Alligator Alcatraz, but if I can't chest thump for it, how else can I prove to everyone that I'm definitely not gay and definitely have no size issues below the belt? Well, you know what you could do? I guess if you buy one of those hats, right, that Benny Johnson is selling, buy some of Benny Johnson's merch. He was kind of quiet on the Epstein thing. He put out a couple tweets, but not much. Not much, as we'll get to. In the Charlie Cope segment.
I mean, there is no grifter in Griftland than Benny Johnson, and even he felt like he had to distance himself from that.
Yeah, He put out a little bit, but not much. I didn't see much from him. Who knows? Maybe he was on vacation this week. Maybe he was retreating. He had a room booked at Crocodile Cocatras.
Yeah.
That's his spot. All right. Let's see here. All right. We got some more segments to do. A couple more pieces here. All right, folks. So we have been talking about the fallout from the dropping of the Epstein case. So here's this. Wow, look at this one. This was probably my favorite response. Insurrection Barbie says, I'm not saying we need to move on from Epstein. I want to see accountability for everything. What I am saying is that Epstein is not the end-all, be-all and defining moment of the Trump presidency like people on here are making it out to be. So you can sell you some more rage and make money. Are they like asking Grok to write these tweets for them now? I feel like these grifters are getting lazier and lazier. I'm seeing more and more typos. So you can sell you some more rage and make money. It's not the reason why I would support President Trump or not support President Trump. It's important, but so is 100,000 other things. Again, so are 100,000 other things. What I am saying is that perspective, nuance, patience, the world's going to be fucking over by this time next year at this rate, and common sense need to make a comeback and fast.
Are you telling me
Wow.
Insurrection Barbie is a moron?
Yeah. Seems like
who'd
kind
have
of
thunk it?
Insurrection bimbo, more like it.
Yeah.
You people really are shameless, says Devin Stack in response to that. And the Patriot voice nails it. Glad to see you are totally fine with the Trump administration covering for satanic pedos. I'll say the abbreviated version for YouTube. The one thing that millions of people were relying on Trump to hold accountable and get justice for the children. You people are spineless cowards. Exactly. Yeah.
See, this is where they're going to have a problem. This is where we're going to have a problem. Because when you're talking about true believers, you can't just brush them off like that.
No, you can't brush them off like that. First of all, at face value, it's kind of a big deal letting a giant sex trafficking ring off the hook, saying there was no client list when everybody knows there's a group of clients. Like,
they didn't even close the pizzeria.
Exactly. Like, there might not be a, no pun intended, PDF file of lists in order, but there's certainly a network of people. There was certainly a network of people that he was involved with, that he procured these guys. Like, we know that for essentially a fact. And so for them to deny the existence to that is kind of a big deal on its face. Now, I got into more of the philosophical significance of the Epstein issue in a different segment, so I won't go on that whole monologue again. You could check that out in a different clip. But the idea that MAGA and the conservative movement, generally speaking, is a bulwark against the Davos New World Order, childless cat lady, lizard person, godless hedonist who enjoys carefree sex with young women. Like, that conflict is central to the MAGA ethos. So on a more philosophical basis, this is really integral to keeping the political project on the rails. You take this out, it all falls apart. So no, this is not just one issue among many. That's like saying to a left-winger, well, Israel's just one issue among many, right? What did we learn? A lot of these people who are progressive, except for Palestine, you learn not only do they have no analysis of Israel-Palestine, it means they have no analysis of colonialism, no analysis of imperialism, no analysis of civil liberties, right? Everything falls apart if you don't get the Israel issue right, just like everything falls apart if you're on the wrong side of the Epstein issue. So no, this is not just one among many, but Insurrection Barbie, not the only Barbie on the block.
We did get the seed oils out of the lube.
Yeah, right, exactly, yes. She ain't the only Barbie on the block who's trying to make this sound as if, hey, it's one thing among many. Charlie Kirk tries to brush it aside by saying if Trump was on the Epstein list, why didn't Biden release that info to stop Trump being president? To which Blakely responds, because Democrats are on it too. This isn't hard. They're all on it. Why don't you explain why the director of the FBI's girlfriend worked for Israeli intelligence? Why don't you explain why Pam Bondi said the client list was on her desk, but now they're saying there is no list? Yes, this is apparently Kash Patel's girlfriend. Background, PragerU, and the IDF. Now, even if Trump is not on it, right? Let's just say he's not on it. Let's just take Charlie Kirk's point at face value. Is it not incumbent upon him to find out who is on it and prosecute them? Like, aren't you guys taking the fight to the satanic pedo cabal? Isn't that one of the main things that should have attracted people to MAGA? This is what we've heard for years and years and years. We heard this story about Biden and his daughter's diary and all this stuff that we're not really allowed to get too into here, but you know what we're talking about, right? So, the crusade against that was a rallying cry for your entire movement and has been for many, many years.
Globalist pedophiles.
Yeah, exactly. Right? All right, so Charlie Kirk went on to other things, right? Revert to culture war gives me renewed hope in humanity. Go Cubs. So apparently the Call Her Daddy podcaster, right, who they hate because she has casual sex just like Epstein did, oddly enough, although hers is legal. But they hate her. They hate her as much as they hate Epstein. She got booed singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game at Wrigley Field last night, and so that was huge news for Charlie Kirk's audience. He tried to get people really excited about that. He also tried to get people excited about the ICE budget, right? This is July 7th at 11:08 a.m. This is when everybody was tweeting about the Epstein thing. Here he is, America, for the increased ICE budgets. People are not buying it, though. People were not buying it. The Native American nationalist, Patriot, I like that. P-A-Y, Patriot, that's good. That's good. He's not the only person using that, but that's what we should call them, Patriots with a Y. Yep. Patriot influencers talking about anything but the Epstein pedo cover-up. I'm doing my part. So it wasn't fooling anybody. He came up with this huge tweet. We're not going to read all of it. Huge tweet. While people are distracted by the holidays and the big, beautiful bill, there is another serious push for immigration amnesty in Washington. Are they distracted by the holidays and the big, beautiful bill? Is that what they were distracted by yesterday, or was it the Epstein files? I think they were distracted with the Epstein files, right? I don't think there were too many people who had leftover fireworks from Friday who were setting them off, and that's why they weren't worried about this. I think they were worried about something else that you seem reluctant to engage. You'll hear the same lines we've always heard: crops rotting in the field, economic collapse, global hunger, and more, even though countless other countries harvest plenty of food without the need for imported serf labor. Fake Vivek says, the topic of the day is literally how we're deceived about the Epstein client list, but this person keeps bringing up Islam. Oh, did I skip that? Oh, shit, I missed that. Oh, sorry. Hold on. We're going to have to edit that in. Because that was the big one. Hold on. Stand by, folks. I will find that one. I must have deleted that slide by accident. All right. Stand by. Hang on. I will find it. There we go. Okay. So
you got it.
We got it.
We're back on track.
We're back on track. Yeah, the rest of the piece kind of does hinge on this. So it's not simply something we can edit around. Here we go.
All right, folks. So pretend you didn't see that part.
Yeah, pretend you didn't see that part. All right, we're back. Okay, so yeah, Charlie Kirk. I mean, this was really the big one. This is the one that got the most pushback. The conservative movement needs to focus more time, energy, and focus on how Islam is rapidly taking over the West.
Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere.
No, Islam. We're really under the thumb.
This culture full of pork-eating drunks. We're really in danger of falling to Islam.
Full of bacon-eating drunks who blow their hand off every 4th of July with makeshift fireworks. Yes, that's Sharia law, according to Charlie Kirk. Yes. So yeah, in response to that, Fake Vivek says the topic of the day is literally how we're deceived about the Epstein client list, but this person keeps bringing up Islam. I gotta dig in. I said, you know what? Islam never invaded Epstein Island. That's right. Friend of the show, Kurt Metzger, was very offended by this. So he said, right now you need to focus on feminizing surgery for your giant head, not to transition. Just shave it down to a normal man's head size. That way, when you film your triumphant debates with dipshit college kids, your head won't screw up the blocking. Wasn't done. He said, for real, though, why is your entire face crammed into such a small area? It's like Gaza. It's a war crime the way your giant head has blockaded your small-ass face. So, yes, like I said, he pissed a lot of people off with that one. funny response. Did very well by Kurt Metzger there. And then you just have some run-of-the-mill, grift accounts. Did Trump put them in the limelight to show the world who they really are? Oh, yeah, that's the 8D chess. That's the 8D chess theory. Yeah, no, he really wanted to. No, that's what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to take Dan Bongino, who had probably the most successful video podcast in America, next to like Rogan or, somebody like that. Like Bongino's live stream, it was the most successful live stream podcast in America, who devoted it entirely to Trump dick sucking. I mean, he's a Trump sycophant, dominating the live stream podcast space. Let's remove him from his role as that, and let's put him in a spot where we're going to expose him as a defender of Epstein, even though he's been critical of Epstein to a very large extent until we gave him this job. No, that's the 8D chess. Let's take a guy who talks about Epstein and defends Trump. Let's take him off the air so that he could now cover up the Epstein crimes. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I meant to do that.
Yeah, I meant to do that. All right, so Alex Jones apparently had a good puke and a good cry, and he got his shit together, and he went on the air, and he tweets this out at 3:47 p.m. yesterday.
Fucking kidding me.
Yes, Judge Joe Brown, who, oddly enough, Judge Joe Brown looks like an emaciated Alex Jones. Like he actually looks in this lighting like Alex Jones in a
There's
Spanish
Alex
prison.
Jones after the thinner curse.
Yeah, right. Alex Jones after the thinner curse. Alex Jones at the Bizarro World Alligator Alcatraz if Kamala were president, right? This is what he would look like. Judge Joe Brown believes that Trump is using the Epstein files to blackmail the deep state to surrender. So apparently Alex Jones thought, you know what, fellas, let's go on Cameo and find someone who we can pay $200 to say this bullshit script, and let's see what they come up with. And so here is Judge Joe Brown on the developments.
Control. He didn't do it. They're shutting it down from everything I've seen. He is taking control of the FBI CIA blackmail file, and now I suddenly see this deep state more and more rolling over. People say, well, that's very immoral to do. The argument would be it's too damaging to bring this back and bring down the whole government. I'm not endorsing that, but the best approximation I've got is they get the files, they raid the FBI. The FBI raids the FBI 5 months ago. When they hid the files in New York, they make the guy resign that was covering it up, and Comey's daughter's still there. They then load the gun, cock the gun, point at the deep state's head, and now suddenly the NATO, everybody's kissing Trump's butt, and it looks like Trump is now in control of the file, and obviously they're not going to read in the FBI. It's the CIA and Ratcliffe doing it. The best approximation I've got, and it is speculation, but I got a lot of points, is that Trump has decided to just use the file against them. What do you think, Judge?
All right, now we Venmoed you the $250. Just say yes. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Oh wow,
yeah, it came through, right?
You can tell he really put work into that.
Well, if you notice,
like what crazy shit could I come up with that keeps my grift going? I don't have to alienate daddy. I can keep it inside parameters that won't get me kicked off X, because that's the only way I'm paying these families that I slandered.
Right.
Okay, how do I make all that come together? Oh, this is Trump's way of keeping the deep state under his thumb. That's the ticket.
Yeah. Now, if you remember when we showed you, this is in the other clip, but when you did the video from the car, he did kind of allude to this. And in this monologue that he just gave, he says, now, I don't endorse this. I don't think this is a good thing to do. So in other words, what he's trying to say here is this is just an error in judgment. They're fighting the deep state the wrong way. They're trying to use the Epstein files as leverage over the deep state to get policy wins over the deep state. I don't endorse that, because
and if
ultimately
they release it, then they won't have their leverage.
Then they won't have the leverage. So what he's saying is, look, they're using this to leverage policy concessions from the deep state, which is not moral, because ultimately we have to bring the pedos to justice. But he's saying this is what they're doing. And he kind of did reference that in the car. He says, it seems like Trump is running the whole thing. They have the information and they're using it against the deep state, but this is a disaster. So what he's basically saying now is, I mean, this is why this guy's a pro. He's a survivor. He's been on the air a long time.
I was just going to say.
He found the sweet spot. He's like, all right, this is an error in judgment by Donald Trump. He's using the files against the deep state. He means well, but it's still the wrong thing to do because we're letting Epstein off the hook.
All right, what can I tell the fucking morons who don't realize that I'm doing performance art that'll keep them listening to my show? I got it.
Now, why he felt the need to bring a cameo entertainer who gets paid $50 to wish, goddaughters happy birthday? That's a joke. I don't know that Judge Joe Brown does that. Why he felt the need to bring somebody in to validate that, I don't know. But he did, and let's see if he plays ball.
I think you're right on point with that.
I guess he did. All right, he's right on point.
He needs a gig.
Right,
he needs a gig.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right on point.
Just use the file against them. What do you think, Judge?
I think you're right on point with that. I think a great deal of what happened with Smith and Millargo when the FBI raided it some years ago, and this thing that clearly they had no standing to go against about him supposedly having classified confidential documents when, as we have discussed, the President of the United States under the Constitution as chief diplomat and commander-in-chief has been held to have absolutely unquestionable authority as to what he declares.
All right, this is just babble. We don't need to,
Alex, it was my understanding you were going to have my Venmo handle at the bottom of the screen if I said this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes, your Venmo cleared. I would like everybody else to know mine in case they want to donate. I mean, why you had to bring him in for that? I don't know why. Because Alex, he said that in the car. He referenced the same kind of theory. So they're workshopping, folks. They're workshopping, folks. They're trying to figure out a way to hold this together. That is pretty weak tea to bring in Judge Joe Brown to say, yeah, no, you're right. They're trying to hold the deep state accountable this way by holding the files over them. So now the blackmailed becomes the blackmailer. Now I'm using this as leverage against you to build Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Didn't see that one coming. Did you? But it's still wrong. We don't endorse it because ultimately you're concealing the files and children were harmed, and we can't condone that, right? We can't endorse this. But what we could say is that this is a misguided strategy to conquer the deep state in this roundabout way. I mean, seriously, who the fuck watches this anymore? And Thomas Massey just tweeted out this. I have an excuse. This didn't come on the air. This didn't come across the wire until just now. But Thomas Massey tweets out, grifters running out of things to grift on. See? So he's wise. He's wise. He sees
true.
What's going on. They're running out of things. Well, yeah, everything's falling apart one by one. Ukraine, Israel, even the deportations
measles.
To an extent. Measles. Yeah, right. Yeah, measles. Hey, at least we brought measles back. That's the silver lining. That's the best thing that Trump has done so far is bring measles.
Turns out your kids having measles is not as much fun as advertised.
Yeah, exactly. That's the silver lining. Yeah, no, I mean, wow, man, it's true. They're running out of shit. This was a big one. Wow. All right. What do we got here? We got yeah, Russell's Peasant Mind saying death to in Iran is like saying go to hell in America, just a turn of phrase. It's an idiom, just like wipe off the map. Well, I mean, that's an idiom in a lot of places. It doesn't mean literally death in the physical sense to people. Right. It's like saying down with this, right? Steve Wolfbrand, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that. Marathon Man Pete says the U.S. decline accelerated dramatically after screaming females broke up. Prove me wrong. I'm living in a brass bell and it's too loud. Sam As I Am says pass it on. If Epstein didn't do anything, Luigi certainly didn't do anything. That's right. Del0373 says MacArthur Park is in largely pro-Israel Zionist area of Los Angeles. Drug use in that park will be anti-Semitic. There you go. Yes. Thank you very much for that. All right. We'll go to some Rumble rants over here. Sorry, got that.
Don't forget, I gotta get to a movie, so we gotta.
Oh yeah, when does that start?
7.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we got one more, and then we're out of here. How often do you think of the Roman Empire? Says Eric. So appreciate that very much. All right, this last one is a pretty quick one, but folks, we would be negligent. Yeah, and I have a show at 7, so yeah, we both got Both
Boom.
got a wrap soon, coming under the gun. But hey, got to go the extra mile today. We couldn't paint a complete picture of the response to the spiking of the Epstein files without giving you Ben Shapiro's perspective. Obviously, that would be journalistic malpractice. So he thinks all good. This is exactly what he was looking for. What do you know? And to nobody's surprise, writes Texan AF, Ben Shapiro believes the DOJ and FBI's conclusion about Epstein and encourages his viewers to do the same.
And the problem is this. People who never hedged their bets, people who never at any point suggested to you that they don't have data to back up the speculation, that the speculation was in and of itself the conclusion that if you speculate without evidence, that amounts to an actual conclusion to an investigation, they're going to be very upset today because it turns out that the DOJ and the FBI have concluded that Epstein didn't have a client list and died by suicide, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. Now, again, does this put to bed like all inquiries? Of course not. People can continue to speculate as much as they want. And I think there's still open questions here regarding how did Epstein make his money? That's a very serious open question. And the speculation for a long time was he made his money from blackmail. But the DOJ and the FBI, again, run by people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are telling you, I'm not telling you, they're telling you, people who are members of the Trump administration,
Well, who could
people
doubt
you
that
elected
crew?
and put
Right.
into these positions to get you the truth on this matter, are telling you that he didn't, in fact, he was not murdered. He did not keep a client list. And he did not blackmail powerful figures.
Okay, this would be like us coming on the air. Yeah. This would be like us coming on the air and saying, listen, guys, AOC said Kamala is working tirelessly for a ceasefire. AOC said that. So come on.
Come on.
Do we believe our lying eyes or do we believe AOC?
And unlike the crew he just named, she's actually elected.
Right. She's actually elected. That's right. That's right. It would be like, that's what that sounds like. That's what, if we came on and said that to you at the DNC convention, would you continue to take us seriously or would you say, oh, I know what this is. I'll find someone else to go watch. I mean, that's literally what he's saying here.
Okay, right. That is the thing that they are saying, not I. They are saying this. If you're willing to throw that over and claim they're lying, then I'd like to see you present your evidence that they are in fact lying. Because I know Dan. I don't think that Dan Bongino is lying to me.
Oh, I know him. He's a square guy. He's a nice guy. It's interesting.
I know Kash Patel a little bit. I don't think Kash Patel is lying to me. I don't think these people are lying to me. Which means that if somebody else continues to claim that they're lying, they ought to provide their evidence at this point.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to
Yeah,
provide you.
no, because everybody has access to FBI files.
Exactly.
That's a meaningful challenge.
I'd be happy to oblige Ben Shapiro and provide some, at least, circumstantial evidence, first, that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel might in fact be lying, might in fact have reason to lie about this. And second, that there is actually evidence of a blackmail ring that exists, whether or not Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, or Kash Patel is willing to acknowledge it. So first, here's Dan Bongino saying to Tim Pool a story about how he was told Epstein was an intelligence asset for a country in the Middle East. What country could that have been?
Year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but not who they are. It says, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know, but
I don't know.
And this is when Tim jumps in and says, you know what? It doesn't matter what country we're talking about, right?
Doesn't matter.
this person who's a very, very good reporter, I mean, aces, right? Swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up, and they're the ones who have all this stuff.
Epstein is a very common last name among several Middle Eastern countries. Epstein is a very common name, in Iran. in Syria and Iraq. So, it could be any one of those. Maybe Israel, but, we don't have any reason to think that Epstein may be connected with Israel. And he does have reason to lie about that, even though he has it on good authority that Epstein is a blackmail agent involved with some Middle Eastern country. Here is Dan Bongino when asked what cause is dear to your heart.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, defense of Israel.
What is number one?
Okay, so first thing that comes to mind, defense of Israel. Maybe that's that Middle Eastern country he wouldn't disclose.
You
Here's Kash
remember
Patel.
we had some people who should have known better, who got really upset when we kept pointing out the crazy eyes Kash Patel was not anyone to put your faith in.
Yeah, no, people
Remember,
got very
a lot of
offended
people
by
got
that.
very offended by that
Yeah,
idea.
a lot of people really were upset that we didn't give him the chance he deserves. All right, well, here we are, 6 months later. Kash Patel, let's take a look, because Shapiro knows Kash Patel. He doesn't think Kash Patel would lie for Israel. Well, I mean, Shapiro probably thinks that's a testament to his character that he would lie for Israel. But here he is saying how we don't do enough to prioritize Israel.
Off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
Right. So why would either of those two schmucks lie for Israel? Why? I mean, after all, Ben Shapiro knows him. Do you think Ben Shapiro would cavort with people who would lie for Israel?
Would Ben Shapiro lie for Israel?
Would Ben
Never.
Shapiro? Would I lie for Israel? It's
No,
Ben Shapiro
of
you're
course
talking
not.
about here. All right, so let's look at some more evidence here. Epstein met the Prime Minister of Israel 36 times in 4 years. He even flew to New York and sneaked into Jeffrey Epstein's house. Why would Israel's head of state do that? Trump, who has been Israel's dutiful little bitch, says no reason, definitely not blackmail. There he is. So there is the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, going into Jeffrey Epstein's, place of residence. Now, Jeffrey Epstein passed away of tragic suicide, obviously.
Natural causes.
He obviously took his own life before COVID hit. So, which means that mask he's wearing was not so that he would not die of COVID. That mask he was wearing so no one would see him going into Epstein's house, which he did 36 times in 4 years. And if you don't believe the Daily Mail, if you think that's junk, here's one of the papers of record in Israel, Times of Israel, saying Ehud Barak met with Jeffrey Epstein dozens of times and flew on the private plane. So again, this is some evidence, right? You can't say there's no evidence. This is evidence. How about this one? Whitney Webb's report, an ex-spy for Israel who worked with Robert Maxwell, not coincidentally, two Maxwells involved. This was Ghislaine Maxwell's father, has claimed that Maxwell not only recruited Epstein for Israeli intel, but that he and Ghislaine ran their sex blackmail op for Israeli military intelligence. There's more. Thread on my latest. For the interest of time, we're not going to read the article. We'll read a couple tweets. Interview with ex-spy was made by Narrative, so full credit to them. Ex-spy's claim bolsters info I obtained that money from the sales of illicit promise software by Robert Maxwell and E. Bryan was used to start Epstein's sex trafficking op. Ex-spy said that Maxwell recruited Epstein because Epstein and Ghislaine were dating, and Maxwell wanted to help set them up and get them, in the family business. Thus, most likely it was Maxwell, not Bryan, who funneled promise money to Epstein to start the op. Ex-spy doesn't give the year Maxwell introduced him to Epstein, but Epstein came pre-approved by Israeli military intel per Maxwell. If this took place between 83 and 85, the head of military intel for Israel was Ehud Barak, who was very close to Epstein and remained very close to Epstein until basically the end. The question then becomes, can this ex-spy be trusted? I discuss his past at length in my report, but his info on his time in Israeli military intel was used by Cy Hirsch, Bob Perry, and in Inslaw litigation, so good enough for me. Also, when he was set to be interviewed by Bob Perry in 2012, his house was firebombed. Seems like someone didn't want him to make it to that interview. And of course, we have this. Jeffrey Epstein victim's diary contradicts FBI blackmail claims. Virginia Giuffre said the sex offender taped her being abused by other men But an investigation found there was no evidence that he blackmailed individuals. So he just taped her being abused by other men and did nothing with that, despite all the evidence that we now are seeing. Virginia Giuffre, by the way, does that name ring a bell? Oh, yeah, she's the woman who was run off the road by a speeding school bus and then deleted herself 3 weeks later. That was a few months ago before the dropping of this case. Got to look at that through a different lens now. Do you not? Could that have been tying up some loose
looks like
ends?
tying up loose ends, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they knew they were going to do this, and they were trying to shut down anyone who could very credibly contradict their claims.
Exactly. So is any of this proof? No, but it's undeniably evidence of a kind. You know whose job it is to prove it? The FBI and the DOJ, which is what they promised they were going to do. That's why a lot of people voted for them, and now they're not doing it. And that's why people are upset. And Shapiro's take is, well, case closed. Hey, I mean, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, I know those guys. They love Israel. They wouldn't lie. I mean, pretty laughable.
No, look, when you
so
look
he's not
at
even
this,
trying. I mean, it's kind of on brand for him, you know?
Yeah. The idea, I understand, man, and a new administration comes in, especially one as, bellicose as this one, making these claims that they're going to clean up Washington. I can understand getting caught up in the mood of that, but not if you're paying any kind of attention. Like, it's not like, oh, wow, these people seemed so plausible. How on earth could this have happened?
Right.
You had freaking crazy eyes Kash Patel, who literally wrote a children's book in which he is a wizard protecting King Donald. This is the person that you put your faith in to go and clean up Washington. Tulsi Gabbard, who literally called Donald Trump Saudi Arabia's bitch before she decided to become Donald Trump's bitch, who literally was a commander of a PSYOPs battalion in the army. I thought this is something that the conspiracy-minded immediately would set them off, right? PSYOPs, right? Isn't that your big thing? PSYOPs, they're running PSYOPs. She literally ran a PSYOPs battalion, and you can find anything that she said, you can find a clip of her saying the opposite. That doesn't seem like a PSYOP to you? These are people, Robert Kennedy Jr., who we know kept a fucking notebook of sexual acts with all the women that he had sexual relationships with, who is virulently pro-Israel. Nothing going on there? You thought none of these people were on the Epstein list? Like, these are people you really thought were going to go in and clean shit up and kick ass and take names.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's true. He did keep a list. Kennedy kept his own list. If they wanted to save some face, they could have just done that. They could have been just like Pam Bondi could have just said, we didn't find the client list, but we did find in the Epstein evidence file a signed copy of RFK's sex diary, which was apparently gifted to him in 2007. So there you go. That's something. Those are the files. That's what we have.
This crew of liars, grifters, and crackpots. No, I could see why so many people ran around thumping their chests about how a new sheriff was coming to town and was going to expose all these people. I could see why you thought this was a plausible crew to go in and expose the Epstein pedo ring. Listen, man, as the great man said, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Yep.
Nobody is coming to save you. There is no part of the oligarchy that is so separated from the overall oligarchy that they're going to do their class brothers and sisters dirty like that. Right. They are not going to expose their own people that way for you.
Right. So why during the campaign season were we so black-pilled and so negative and so down on everything? Well, this is why. You got your answer.
There you go.
Got your answer. Here you go. Yep. Here you go. So sue us. All right. All right, everybody. That is our show. Got some more super chats to read, and then we are out of here. Hey, Ben.
Stand up, be American.
Brad Gilbert says, "Hey Ben, we know
that guy's fucking probably gonna self-delete now.
Oh yeah, exactly. That guy. I hope
Very,
that
very
guy's
upset.
okay.
We should try to follow up with that guy.
Try and reach out to him.
Yeah.
Brad Gilbert, hey Ben, we know what causes dearest to Dan. F you, thank you. Artie Barty Fart Blast says death to disco was not an idiom. Haha, good one. Soul Roster, thanks for the 199. Maxwell Silver Hammer came down upon his head. Thank you, Soul Roster. Brendan McNamara says they were Zion air tying up a loose end. Zion, I get it. Zion up loose ends. Good one. Very well. Very warm welcome to our new Shabbos Goy Gen X girl. Thank you. Appreciate that. Looking forward to Jeffrey Epstein as a guest on The View in a few years with tips on how to orchestrate your own suicide and later rebrand yourself as a good guy. Yes. Crispy Cross is the only Christian nationalist cereal with marshmallow crowns of thorns. One box feeds a multitude, turns milk into wine. Free White Hood in a box. Thank you.
It's pretty good.
Dan isn't lying to me. That is a good one. Yeah. Let's see. EO Shush says Epstein was an Israeli asset. The Trump files are in Israel. Look how Trump acts meek around Bibi, and then around everyone else, he acts like a pompous ass. No, that's true. Definitely has a much, much different.
And I
being.
keep saying, man, look how he's dealing with Elon. He'll
Right.
say a few mean things, and not even really mean for Trump.
Right.
He hasn't even given him a nickname.
That's true. He hasn't even given Elon a nickname. That is good. That is a good observation. China Shill says, fun fact, Robert Maxwell bought the boat he was killed on from Adnan Khashoggi, father of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi, and the band Queen has a song called Khashoggi Ship about the same boat. Interesting. Shady Deals say, in these difficult times, I ask myself, what would Shiloh Hendricks say? Thank you, Shady Deals. Appreciate that very much. All right, everybody, that is our show. I will be live again in just 90 minutes for the Post-Duopoly show over on RBN, and then Russell's going to that screening of Superman. Appreciate you all being here very, very much. Once again, the Misty Winston show is live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be a good one. And then we will see you all back here on Thursday, midday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thank you all very much for spending the afternoon with us. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.